It's the last working day of the week, a Friday for that matter. My name is Pakwisi Shandoff and welcome to today's edition of the AM News. Let's start with some stories on the economy where the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has acknowledged that Ghana's inflation problem, but he says that it is a continent-wide crisis. He admits the situation has not left government at its wit end. He addressed the media on Thursday.
Patrick, welcome. And that's the AfDB itself and the Africa Development Fund for concession loans. So typically about 3,500 participants attend the AGM. Given the COVID issues, we expect it to be about a third of that in terms of delegates. And this year is also the 50th anniversary of the ADF. So it coincides, and it's also the 50th anniversary since the passing of our founding president, Nkrumah. So we have all these global issues. We have the 50th anniversary of the fund, the 50th anniversary of the passing of Dr. Nkrumah, and we have the AFCFTA headquartered here. So today, 41 African economies are severely exposed to at least one of three concurrent crises: rising food prices, rising energy prices, and tightening financial conditions. Finance ministers now call it, the dreaded 3 Fs of food, fuel, and financial conditions. And that is just rippled through all of Africa. Food prices easily about 34% higher, crude oil prices some 60% higher, global inflation has risen. We saw our numbers yesterday move to, I believe, 23.6% or so, and a good chunk of it being imported inflation. So we truly are at our wits' end on the continent as to how to address these issues.
We also gave an update on the impact of the measures government recently announced to address the economic crisis in the country.
With regards to, once again, the results of the consolidation and the announcements about travel and reduction in salaries and all of that, the controller will be giving us a report to see, but it's really early days yet. But I think what was significant was really the issue of sacrifice and recognition by leadership that these are difficult times and we should join. Sometimes it's not a quantum, but it's exercising a sense that you are au fait with what is happening with your people and you are joining in it to make sure that you are all burden sharing. And I think that may be the more important lesson. But it leads to a certain frugality because now, I went to the spring meetings with 8 people as opposed to prior years that may be double or 3 times depending on all of the meetings, because now Zoom has become a real part of our lives, So I think that signaling is what must be heralded, an acknowledgement that we are all one people and we should burden share, and then the bonus will be the savings that will come out of it.
The Association of Ghana Industries has described the latest proposals from utility companies requesting an upward adjustment of tariffs as uncomfortable for businesses, but says it may be necessary for the utility companies to survive. The AGI has been meeting with BURC to articulate their concerns over the new proposals, which have the ECG and Ghana Water Company asking for 148 and 340% tariff increases respectively. Humphrey Enyim Dake is the president of the AGI.
I've been in the hotel industry, so for these tariffs to go, obviously as a businessman, it's not comfortable, but it depends how they're programmed and as to what tariffs and at what time and how efficient these tariffs are collected and how use they put them to.
It means for AGI for now, you don't have any major problems with the announcement. ECG is asking for 148%. Ghana Water is asking for over 300%. You're okay with the figures that have been bandied around?
We're not okay, but I just don't want to. It's early days to say whether one is okay or one is not okay. The situation is that things have changed. So if these things are going to be put in place, and also if business people, and what does it bring to business, and if people are in a position to pay and they're paying, what are the benefits and so on and so forth. You got them. For business, it's difficult. I mean, nobody wants tariffs to go up. But if it's the situation, and if somebody is subsidizing somewhere, and for that matter, we are not in a position to be doing that going forward, I think that we should come to the book and know that, okay, if these are the right tariffs to pay, and for this reason, and for this reason, I think we should go forward with it. At the end of the day, then they will come out to say, okay, so somebody is subsidizing somewhere, and as a result of that, A, B, C, D is happening. So if we're going to pay realistic figures and they have a reason to support that, and then we as business people want to look forward and say, okay, so if these tariffs are coming up, what are the benefits that comes back to industry and so on and so forth? I think that, but on the contrary, I'll say I'm not comfortable with it.
Now, residents of Kwabenya in the Ga East municipality are kicking against the erection of a telecom mast in the area. They say the act will have health implications, and therefore they want the EPA to halt construction works. They've also written an official petition to the municipal chief executive to intervene while they seek legal advice on the matter.
A few weeks ago, we saw some workers digging a very big trench over here on a piece of land here. So we inquired from them, what is happening? And we were told they are going to build a mast. And the whole neighborhood, there was an uproar that they were not going to accept it. And this demonstration continued for about 4 days. And my other neighbors approached me as a retired civil servant. That what shall we do? So I called the environmental director, Ga East Municipal Assembly, and also the municipal engineer. And they came with their team. And the environmental officer issued a stop permit, a stop order to them. And then the engineer also issued a stop order to them. But unfortunately, after the third day, what we saw was the people came back and resumed work. And they were working day and night. So I called the environmental director. He couldn't tell me anything better. When I called the municipal engineer, he also didn't tell me anything better. So, Ghana, what do? We have to, initiate other measures. So the measures was that we have to write a petition to our lawyers. And then we wrote a petition to our lawyers. And even the owner of the land didn't consult any of us as residents. And then from the look of things, if you look at this neighborhood, the buildings were closely built. It's a cluster of buildings. And if this thing is built, inside this residential area, you could imagine the effect that it will have on these residents.
Where they are going to mount it is a residential area, and it's a business site, so we're not going to allow it. So one day we were there, we just saw that they had started mounting it. So we came around, they told us that they have the permit to mount it from the EPA. So we all decided if the authorities are giving them the permit, so who are we to challenge it? But fortunately we begin to do our own investigation and we found out that it wasn't true that they are giving them the permit to mount it. So that's where we are now, that we want to stop it because it's not good. And my basic thing is that the woman is not living here. The owner she doesn't stay here. She's at least gone. And we mounted it here. If anything happens, we are going to suffer. Because I've been here for 14 years. And you see, the place is developing. There's the residential that you can't. Normally, we mounted this one at the end of the town. You can't mount it in the beginning, at the center of this area. We
are expecting them to let them dismantle the whole thing here. Yeah.
So what is the next line of action in case, because from what Mr. Kofi
We
said,
have taken it to our lawyers, so then based on their report, we'll know what to do next.
Inspecting the site on Thursday, Deputy Director of the Accra West District of the EPA, Awudu Yoda, said the telecom company leading the project failed to secure the necessary construction permit.
We realized the tower has been built. Yeah, the tower has been built, and there's no one on site to get the information that we are seeking for. So we don't know which company is involved in this tower, and we don't know whether they have permits from any regulatory body. From our checks, we didn't work on this development, so we cannot ascertain, but we will still go and verify. So basically, we have procedures that you have to follow when you want to erect a mast like this. And so you submit an application to the agency with the specifications of what you want to do. Thereafter, officers will come to the site, assess the site, consult the neighbors, and follow the due procedure. If everything is satisfied, we grant you a permit to raise the mast. Basically, it's a procedural issue.
Now, let's go to Kumasi, where there is a protracted standoff between traders and management of the KJTM market over the payment of charges for owning stores at the facility. Leaders of the traders have asked members to break padlocks if the management of the facility lock their shop for non-payment of charges. Chairman of the concerned Central Market Traders Association, Frank Entry, claims government gave them a duration of 5 years to defray the cost of the shops, but management of the market are demanding an early payment.
Over 10 trade unions at the KJTM market met at the center of the new facility to discuss issues inhibiting smooth running of their businesses. Accessibility to some areas of the market, high utility bills and service charges, as well as insecurity were major concerns. Chairman of concerned Central Market Traders Association, Frank Entry, says management is gradually pushing them out of business by locking their shops.
So I told my members that if you come to your shop and you see that the management lock your shop with padlock without the court notice, you break up, because we are sure on them that we have 5 years mandate to pay the premium. We don't tell them to not pay the premium because we know that we own the government about the premium.
Several meetings with the management to resolve bottlenecks in the payment of premium for the shops have not been successful. Frank Entry says the traders should break padlocks anytime management locks their shops.
We are going to break the lock until we have the court notice. If it is court, we go to court and defend ourselves. But if the power is from the management or anywhere, we break the shop.
Accessibility to the market is another concern of the traders. Some areas of the market are virtually cut off, affecting patronage of shops in the area. The Public Relations Officer for the KJTM Traders Association, Andrews Kofi, says there have been appeals for additional gates to the facility.
The market, what is the purpose of market? For people to enter and go freely. If there is chaos here, I bet you we will find it difficult to evacuate everything here. How many gates are here? The gates, we have about 7 gates. We need more than 20. We need more than 20 gates here. So this is one of our problems. You see, the area is locked. KJTM is not accessible. And there are other markets around. If the person who is coming here does not find the place accessible, he will decide to buy his thing somewhere.
Awuku Malik's report read to you.
Let's still stay in the Ashanti region because the Vice-Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Rita Akosua-Dixon, is advocating for an uptake of research outputs for commercialization by local industries. She believes partnerships with industry and investors would translate scientific and technological findings into impactful societal solutions. There's more in the following reports.
NUST held a science and technology exhibition as part of activities to commemorate the university's 70th anniversary. The exhibition saw a display of various innovative and sustainable artifacts and inventions developed by the different colleges in the university. Vice-Chancellor of the KNUST, Professor Mrs. Akosia Dixon, observed that the majority of research activities conducted by the university would not achieve the purpose of impacting society if they only end up on bookshelves and in journals. In the light of attaining the UN Sustainable Development Goals, Professor Mrs. Dixon is imploring local industries to partner with the university for the commercialization of research outputs.
The problems of society are our problems, and we go through research to proffer solutions to the problems of humanity. In that sense, what we say is that if we carry out these research, we must ensure that the research or the outcome of these research are impacting the people for whom the research are carried out. Interestingly, we are not able to do this all by ourselves. We partner. KNUST believes in constructive partnership, and we cherish the kind of partnership that we enjoy with our industrial partners. And we welcome them to even help us to commercialize all these research outcomes that are coming. They should come and pick it up and then take it all out there so that it will be very beneficial to society.
Impressed by the innovative exhibitions, Executive Director of Agri-Impact Consults, Daniel Akwe, observed most private industries shied away from collaborating with the universities. This, according to him, stems from the protracted channels of communication investors have to endure. He therefore advocates for the establishment of a platform for investor-friendly engagements between the university and industries.
In most instances, private sector is frustrated when they are engaging with university. First, it is not straightforward. Secondly, it takes quite a long time. And the third thing is that you don't even know where to start from. We need to foster this kind of partnerships. And to foster this kind of partnership, there should be a platform for engagement. And this platform for engagement needs to be facilitated. So we will need someone who will facilitate this kind of engagement process so that the private sector will see what the universities and the research institutions have.
For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright-Kweku reporting.
The People's National Convention has suspended 2 of its leading members and 12 others over misconduct. The former chairman of the party, Moses Daniba, and former flag bearer, Mrs. David Apasera, are being sanctioned for alleged financial misconduct. Mouse Numon has more in the following report.
The suspension of the 14 comes at the back of the party's consideration of a court ruling brought against them by the party. National executives of the party concluded that Messiah's David Apasera and Moses Daniba have violated Article 14A of the PNC's constitution. Party chairman Bala Salahu Maikankan explained the circumstances leading to the suspension.
We had a NEC meeting in Kumasi based on a report one of our member, that was the general secretary, brought up that there is some money that was missing within the party. That is, I think, 150,000 Ghana cedis. So we also sat as a NEC. We even invited then Mr. Daniba and then Apasara for them to come to the meeting, which they refused to come to that very meeting in Kumasi. But then we as NEC, we sat on that very issue, and then we discuss about the issue. So we see that they are guilty based on the allegation that was reported on them, and then we suspended them, thinking that they will come to us to seek for redress. He came back on his own, set up his own members. That is the people that we mentioned their names. That is one Ajara Ali, she is the vice chairperson, and then one Mr. Umar Bakure, and then Abbas Nuhu and Sampana. That is one chairman for Bono region. Richard Jereke, chairman of OT, and Abraham Kaba Hirohito, chairman of Ashanti region, and Siba Sakibu, that's the Greater Accra regional secretary, and then Malam Yakubu Tahir, Western Regional Chairman, and then Army Yao, Organizer, Ashanti Regional Chairman, and then Oliver Ganaku, Secretary, Volta Region, Abdul Samed Nuruddin, Secretary, Bono Region, and Hidayah, the woman organizer. So based on what he did, he has gone too far, because we suspended you went to court asked you to come back for redress. Now you came back also creating another issue. So that was why we took a decision today. The same NEC sat here. Since yesterday we had a NEC meeting. Yesterday as around 1 to 2 o'clock midnight, we were still on NEC meeting. So the decision wasn't that easy, but I think we just let it go.
Mr. Mike Kankan believes the PNC has more qualified candidates to contest and run for the 2024 presidential election.
Certainly, Apasara may not be the last presidential candidate. Since 1992, we've been changing flag bearers, because 1992 it was Dr. Hilal Iman, and then 1996 it was Edward Mahama, 2000 Edward Mahama, before Asan Ayerga. No, before Edward Mahama, one came, Dr. Yakubu Isaka. After him, Asan Ayerga came, and then Apasara also, as far as he was sacked. So definitely someone might come. We have more who are waiting.
The party is, however, poised to allow the law take its course should those suspended continue to hold themselves as members of the PNC. Maus Numos report for Joy News.
That's all for today on the AM News. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff, and of course, do have a pleasant weekend. I leave you in the company of your favorite morning duo, Benjamin and Benes.
All right, you know how we do it. It's 35 minutes off the top of the hour, and we get into the major stories, actually some 34 minutes. But let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper, and shortly I'll be joined by a familiar face. But we get into the Daily Graphic. Ajapa deal revived. We mustn't drop it. That's according to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. He was having that interaction yesterday. I'll bring you more about some of what he said about collateralizing the E-levy and more of that. But in this story, the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, has called for support for the Ajapa deal to progress instead of being abandoned. Now, responding to a question about the deal at a press briefing in Accra yesterday, the minister described the deal as a good one. Quote, good one. That would help the country to raise resources and reduce its debt exposure. Justifying the deal, he said, it is not something that the country needs to drop. That is an asset. The question, Mr. Ofori-Atta stated, should not be about whether monetizing mineral royalties or listing the company was good or bad. Rather, if anyone had a problem with the process, they had to articulate that and cure it. Let's not drop something that will be good for us and to help reduce our debt exposure. That is what he said. What is your thinking? As we have the show, we'd love to hear from you as well. Ajapa deal, to resuscitate it, to bring it back, or not? What is your take? Do share with us with the hashtag AM Show. Let me say a very good morning to the man who braces Benes and Benjamin. Samuel Kojo Brace. Good morning, my brother.
Charlie, what happened?
Outsource.
With day inside, you know what I'm saying?
Nowadays, I don't know whether it is, say, but it's becoming increasingly difficult sometimes to wake up in the morning. It's a bit... No. You know, these are things that we often do not say, but I'm sure you sometimes wonder, these people, when do they get up? And they are here and there, and we are at home, I feel no cry, no be you know?
Charlie. Yeah, for the love of country and God.
No, do you think so too?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's painful to truncate your sleep, especially early mornings. But you have to do it because you have to hear. You know, sometimes my guys ask me, but it's too early. I say, nah, you don't understand. It's too early for you.
It's at this thing, eh? Ayo. What do you think, though, about the Ajapa deal being revived? I mean, there's been talk of it in recent times, and we've heard the finance minister also wade into that, talking about the fact that, yes, it's in the offing, we'll bring it back, and it's a good thing. You don't throw away good things. What do you think?
I'm going to speak based on what I've asked experts and what they've told me. I spoke to a lecturer at the KNUST at UMAT when this issue came up.
Right.
And he said the plan itself is good. He thinks that it's been long overdue on how we've not been able to monetize our royalties in the mining sector. And so this presents us a clear path as to how we want to do it.
Right.
But he thinks that the education on it should be more so that we can all buy into it. So based on what he said, it looks to be a good thing, but I'm sure the modalities as to how we want to do it is what we have to...
But the same Ajapa thing was taken kind of like reminiscent of the E-levy. It was taken to Parliament, and it was jettisoned. And there were so many things. I mean, do you recall the civil society groups and all of that against it, because it appeared this was going to be something that would benefit a few, though it was said that it was our mineral royalties, being put into this so that we all can benefit. But certain names and certain places and all of that raised a lot of questions. To the extent that civil society almost en masse went after this. So the question is, what has changed? Because even if you recall, just to add, there were those in the minority and others who said that no matter the framing, when you bring this, we are not for it because the whole concept does not work.
See, the problem about solutions in Ghana emanating from government is the transparency. The lack of transparency of the solutions makes it attract all of this opposition. Because, for example, if you want to monetize our royalties, what sort of consultations went into it? Because I'm sure these CSOs, which are in the energy and natural resources space, could have really been of help. Because I've read a lot of things from these, I don't want to mention any name, but people have given out a lot of things on how we can better monetize our royalties. So could we have gone about it differently? Could we have done, because you realize even with E-levy, it got to a point where there was so many opposition. That's where we started to do nationwide
the town halls
engagement.
Right.
Why couldn't we have done that before? So for Agyapa, why couldn't we have engaged widely for us to get the best of ways to go about it?
And I think as well, when these engagements are done, which should be done prior to tabling it in Parliament and all of that, you should gauge the temperature of the country. And if the people say, we don't like this, I feel governments should comply. But it appears, whether it is, that they sort of backtracked and then came back with it later. But I feel that sentiment ought to be respected, and sometimes I don't see that. I think you should respect what the people want. After all, what you're doing is in the interest of the people.
Yeah.
You are serving them, and if they say this is not the road
but,
we want...
But sometimes there's a caveat. For example...
No, I'm not saying all the time.
Okay, good.
It cannot be all the time.
Because as a father, you tend to understand that if I do this for my kids, it would help them. But children would try to oppose it from at the beginning. But if you are true, or you are truthful about what you're doing, and you believe in the outcome of it being in the interest of your children, you go ahead and make sure you do it. So I'm thinking that yes, we as
and bear the consequences if it goes awry.
Exactly.
Bear the consequences if it goes wrong.
Yes. Right. So they who are proposing this, as long as they believe in it, they should go ahead and do it. If it goes right, it is to your benefit. If it goes wrong, it is to your disadvantage as well. So I feel that yes, sometimes if you want to go about doing certain things, we will complain. Because of course, if you tell me that you want to go and give my 1,000 cedis to someone when I need the money, obviously I'll complain. But if only you are convinced about it and you believe in your convictions, go ahead and do it. And then when it goes well, we'll praise you for it. Like E-levy, they've done it, haven't they? We are watching how they are going to use the revenues that accrue from that. If they don't manage it well, we'll show them when 2024 comes. If they manage it well, then Ghanaians will say, okay, well, you used it well, so we'll applaud you. But if you don't, we'll pay you back.
Well, speaking of the finance minister, some other things that he made mention of, at least from yesterday's engagement, saying he can't give an assurance the E-levy won't be collateralized. He says this is the last resort. You know, we've heard from the roads minister who said that the E-levy was going to be collateralized for loans in order to build our roads infrastructure. Others did not corroborate that, but the finance minister has come in to say that will sort of be a last resort. We've also heard the finance minister say that going to the IMF is not an option, that we should continue seeking homegrown solutions. And again, that we are not the only African country hit by fuel and food crises, and that other African countries have also been hit. And this is where I have a bit of a challenge, because it's about the scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yesterday, when I was interacting on the inflationary rates and all of that, I made mention of the fact that, do you know that right now, when you look at the top 5 when it comes to inflation rates, we're at 5th. And we're not competing with countries that are, I mean, the likes of Zimbabwe and the rest. We know that their inflation has been in the doldrums for a long time.
Comparing ourselves to them.
Exactly. Some of the countries in there, I can get you the list.
I'm told our next door neighbors, Ivory Coast.
Yes, they are faring better.
Exactly. So if the finance minister tells us that, we have all been hit, we have to tell him that, but Ivory Coast also was hit. But they are having a better condition now than we are having in this country. So why aren't you comparing yourself to the likes?
So let me just give you the list. Look at the countries we're rubbing shoulders with. Sudan, 260%.
Bad.
Zimbabwe, 96.4%. And we all know about Sudan's economy. Nothing to talk about. Ethiopia, 36.6%. Yeah, in there somewhere. We look at Angola, 25.79%. And then Ghana is next with 23.6%, what we know now. But just to wrap, Biden marks COVID.
So on the Ajapa, I think they also want to collateralize it for some monies, facilities to develop whatever we want to achieve.
Yeah, so practically a similar formula.
That's why people are but I'm like, what I'm saying is that if they are convinced about what they want to do, get the people to buy into it. Let the people.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because in one breath, just because you say this, the finance minister is saying collateralization of our resources may not necessarily be the best, at least a la E-levy, what he is saying per his latest. But then in Agyapa, it's a similar.
Yes. Because the explanation they've been giving is that, okay, if you have 100,000 today,
right,
and 100,000 today can probably buy you two houses. If you wait till 10 years, when 100,000 cannot buy you 2 houses, which is better?
Right.
The better one.
When it may be worthless.
Is for you to take it now, and that's why they want to do that. But I'm saying that get us to buy. Let us understand. But the thing is because of. Like today we are praising that honest guy. It's because a lot of the times we feel that our leaders are not honest with us.
You mean the Church of Pentecosts?
No, all of us. All of us. Yes.
Right.
I am a member of the Church of Pentecost.
I am Catholic, but okay. I feel it is a very good thing he's done that.
Yeah. So
all of us.
He's a Ghanaian driver.
Right. It's important to laud the fact that he's Pentecostal.
So the Church of Pentecost driver. I'm with the ICGC.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. But I have my family root is in Methodist.
I thought you would say 3 fingers.
No.
I'm saying but just to wrap, Biden marks COVID-19 tragic milestone in U.S. at Global Summit. Have you heard? 1 million empty chairs around the family dinner table, like he mentioned, and that marks more than 999,000 people in the U.S. and at least 6.2 million people globally killed by COVID-19. Just your quick thoughts on this. Cloxa calls of neutrality allowance strike. We're talking about that later today. And Afenajan, a fitting replacement for Asamoah. I just wanted to run those two by you.
Yeah. Afena is a great guy.
Roma.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at him, he has the potential to grow into a very beautiful, great striker. And I'm happy he's with Jose Mourinho. I mean, this is a guy who really can train people and refine them into diamonds. So if he gives himself that time and patience, he can become great and replace Asamoah. Because look, his movement on the pitch in front of goal is exciting. When we played against Nigeria, I said that he was the one who was giving us that hope in front of goal. And you feel that he's young, but the way he was moving in front of goal gives you that
it also took pressure off the likes of Thomas Partey and others who could then have an opening. But interesting question for you. I don't know how much of football you follow. Who is your best Ghanaian player of all time? You have the Osei Kofis, the Anthony Yeboahs, the Abedi Peles, and then you have the new crop.
I didn't see the likes of Osei Kofi and Co. But I saw.
But you've heard of their exploits.
Yes, but I saw brief of Tony Yeboah, Abedi Pele, and what have you. And look, I'm in love with Abedi, and I think that he's been our greatest all time pair. The times that I follow football, next to him would have to be Appiah.
Stephen Appiah.
Yes, the way he captained the team, he brought a sort of. I mean, you know, we're coming from a period where there were a lot of issues with the Black Stars. This guy came to stabilize things. So I think that next in line with him, you have, and Samuel Seko. I love Samuel Seko for.
Okay.
I've loved him from, because of him I was supporting Bayern Munich, but then my team, Manchester United, disciplined them.
1999,
yeah.
Solid guy.
Yeah. I was head for Seko for, because that day he shone.
But that day I felt sad for him.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he was mobile.
He cried because he thought that he had done the job. He marked 2 players.
I mean, the last few minutes, and then I remember Teddy Sheringham.
Yes, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Charlie, let's get into the daily guide.
Anyway, GNPC YDC USA partner, and there's a story I follow for the past 2 days now. Dr. Dominic Edia, who is the chief executive for the GNPC Foundation, was in US to sign an agreement with this YDC to bring about skills. They want to train more people in the oil and gas field, so they could get the requisite skills to be employed in the area. You know, the foundation has already started with training people in welding and all, what have you. So this is a good thing for them to then upscale or scale up their training that they've been doing already. So it's kudos to the team at the GNPC. Now, this one says juvenile trial for Kasua teen killers.
I think that was the 10-year-old.
Yeah.
The one they hit with blocks and all.
And then murdered, because they wanted to use his head for money rituals also. So that story is there. We're excited about E-levy. IMF gone. That's according to the Minister of Finance, just like you mentioned yesterday at his press briefing there. He asked the Reuters guy why he asked whether Ghana will consider going to the IMF, and felt, IMF is not really a first option. And so let's look at what we can do without going to the IMF. E-levy is good, but like I was telling my guys in the house this morning, it is only good when we see the dividend of this E-levy. We know the monies they are raising. What are they going to use it for? We want to see the outcome. That is what will give us the confidence that, well, it means that we are now finding solutions in-house. So let's see how it goes. So the minister is good, he's excited about E-levy, but we as citizens who are paying, we want to see the outcome. We want to see the tangibles, what they are going to use these monies for. And I feel when I see some of these communication that goes on, like E-levy will make sure your child's education is sustained, whatever, I feel that it's not targeted. I think we should have target for the use of this revenue.
And that is where
they stated, they mentioned some of them.
Right.
That it looks like we are trying to lump everything together to say, when you pay E-levy, we are going to do all of this.
This is where I have a problem with our policy people and our politicians, because then it's like promising too much. You see, when you do that, you shoot yourself in the foot, and then people hold you to much higher standards. It is not to say that our politics should be shoddy or it should be one that is at a very low level, reaching out always for low-hanging fruit, but make realistic promises. And I've always said this, and if I were into politics, which I don't like, our brand of politics I don't like, but if I were a politician, I think I would want to under-promise and over-deliver.
Exactly.
Then the people would, this guy is not, he doesn't like to, but you promise 10 and you deliver 1.5.
Yeah.
You see, that is the problem. And they keep doing it. It's ad infinitum, and that is what I don't get.
When I saw the thing on social media, I said they should choose on that one. They should just keep quiet, because it looks like we are talking as though E-levy is going to solve everything for us. And it's something we shouldn't do. I'm thinking that the E-levy should be targeted. If it's infrastructure we want to use the money for, and say roads, let's say we are putting all our E-levy revenue into roads. If it's about education, let's do it. But if we want to spread it like we've been spreading all our resources without any meaningful thing, to show for, it's a problem. It's really a problem.
And I've been talking about this, that Well, the E-levy, initially, I mean, we were told of different things, from road infrastructure to all of that. But I agree with you. Look, even if we had got all of the 6.9 billion, realistically, how much can we do with that? And again, I feel sometimes these politicians should be able to come to the Ghanaian people and say, look, in seeking your mandate, we want to focus on some core thematic areas rather than spread. Look, even look at our flagship programs. How many are we looking at? 16, 20 or so. How about we get maybe 3, 4, 5 and say that by the time of my first 4 years, our road networks are going to be in this state and deliver maybe health infrastructure and deliver rather than spread. Of course, you can't also govern without looking at other aspects of the economy. But what is your focal area so that you can really ramp up? Look, I've been reading a document, and when you look at realistically where we hope to be in the next how many years, and you look at where we are, Brace,
Yeah, I feel we tend to spread widely. Let's target. Let's decide how we want to move the country and the sort of things when we do, it would move this country forward. Then the widespread approach, I feel it has not helped us because look, we have mined gold for how many years in this country?
Centuries.
But
basically.
when you
I mean, if you're picking independence, but it's been mined, and it's important to make that note because the imperialists took out a chunk of our resources, and these resources are finite. I mean, after 2050, 2060, in the next 100 years, there are projections about what would have left, if any, when it comes to our gold resources, for example. So if we're not able to do something with it, some generations to come will reflect on what we did and say these people were failures.
Because I've heard the story of we want to make a place like Takwa, like the Joburg of Ghana. When you get to Joburg...
Have you been to Takwa recently?
Oh, you don't really feel that we are determined about these things that we talk of.
I mean, look at even areas like Takwa, Obuasi. Go there and look at how they are living.
So it tells you that, in fact, when we sort of use the revenues from these natural resources widely, we don't tend to
maximize the benefit.
Yeah, you don't feel it. Because there should be things that we can point to say, oh, after so many years of mining, this is what we've done. Can you show me one thing?
But on the flip side, the ordinary Ghanaian would also want his or her share of the national cake.
I must tell you, if they had used the revenues to say we want to construct a better road between Takwa and say Takrady, Obuasi and Accra, every Ghanaian at a point in time will have a share because you will drive on a better road. Look, this road, the one in how do you call it? The one in
motorway?
The motorway. It was constructed so many years ago. And we are benefiting today. When I drive on it, I'm like, wow, this is a different road.
And we continue to patch concrete with,
with
asphalt.
And all the other but that is something that, so that when generations unborn after us come, they can be told that, look, this is what your forebears use these revenues from these resources for.
Right.
But today, what can we show? I mean, when you go to Takwa, can you really point your hand to something to show that this is what we've done?
Some of these places, mining communities, look like ghost towns. Ghost towns.
Anyway. It's interesting.
More from the Daily Guide?
Anyway, Yeko Boss elected executive member of Africa's Anti-Corruption Institution. It comes with a picture of COP Nameya Tiwa Dankwa. Well, that's one to celebrate for. Let's move on.
Well, let's do Republic Press. UK agrees mutual security deals with Finland and Sweden. Sri Lanka crisis. Gotabaya Rajapaksa or Rajapaksa speech fails to reassure as crisis grows. Mawako in trouble again. Mawako #1. What I remember, the pepper issue, because back then we interviewed the lady in question, but now it has to do with some food poisoning. But I also hear they have apologized. They've borne the medical bills of those affected.
Of some of them, because they've not been able to contact all of them, but they've borne the bills.
And the FDA was there.
Yes, the FDA came there to shut down the place. They've taken samples of the food and drinks that they sell there to go and test to really understand the issue at hand. And you
followed that story, right?
Yes. And they've by extension shut down all the branches that they
The
have.
other branches. Oh,
Yes.
so apart from East Legon, because
they've shut down.
when I heard you reporting yesterday,
Yeah.
you mentioned that East Legon was affected,
yes,
but now it's spread to all the other
because
branches.
when we're speaking to the PRO, he made mention that they've shut down all the other branches. So I went to Agbelempe to check, and indeed,
Agbelempe was also
shut down. So that's the where we are now.
Okay, we deserve brace.
Yeah,
brace yourself for this.
Uh-huh.
We deserve emotional allowance. Nurses and Midwives Association. They deserve but don't we deserve waking up early allowance?
No, we deserve waking up early allowance.
Stress allowance.
We deserve stress allowance. We deserve going back late allowance. We deserve neutrality allowance. We deserve what again? Communication allowance. Because in fact, it's not easy for you to be doing the things you do.
We deserve explanation allowance. Sometimes you have to explain to people that, Charlie, your job is stressful way you don't get time to give them.
And we deserve research allowance too. We research as well. So yeah, we deserve research.
But wait, where are you directing this?
Oh, I mean,
this is private enterprise or not?
Okay, well,
what you are saying? Anyway, so we deserve emotional allowance, Nurses and Midwives Association. Eastern Region, no school building, no vote. Residents of Suaja, Esikaso threatened to boycott election 2024. Divorce cases should be heard in public for others to avoid mistakes. That's an appeals court or the court of appeal, a court of appeal judge. It's either appellate court or court of appeal, appeals court. But just to tie it into the legal bit, or what Ajapa is bringing forth. Ajapa deal not dead, Oforiata hence. We've spoken about that, but Kofi Bento describes move as, quote, grand robbery. Here's why. Imani Vice President Kofi Bento has described the controversial Ajapa royalties deal as a grand robbery being cooked to be imposed on Ghanaians by government. He called on the citizens against the Ajapa transactions to continue to resist any move by the government to approve it. He said that the government wrecked the country and, quote, wants to steal our God-given resources. But like I have been saying, we must look at the different dimensions. You have looked at some of the dimensions of this. Is it going to inure to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian, that baby born today? That other person who is struggling on so many facets, if it will, and if it's transparent enough, like you mentioned,
yes, then
we might have cause to look at certain things. But in the state some of us have seen it in,
now
I don't know.
The reason why a lot of people are doubting it is because of experiences we've had in the past. When government promises you A, it won't do exactly A, and that's why people are quite skeptical about this. Because if you want to say, okay, I want to collateralize my mineral royalties for monies that I can use to do things today than to wait for 10 years, it's good. But people are not, we don't trust the government to do exactly what they say they will do. So if you go and give the government $1 billion today, do you trust the government will use the whole $1 billion to do exactly what he has to do with? It's like some of them will pass somewhere. And that's why people are feeling that, well, then leave it. Let it be in the state it is. When it comes, we'll use it. Than to go and borrow for us to be paying huge interest rate later. That's the reason I get from a lot of us who are speaking against the Ajapa. Yeah.
Let's get into the next paper.
Well,
which one? Ghanaian Publisher.
Exactly. Right. There's a story here. It says, I stepped down as MP after breaking the fall at Ayaso West Wogon, Chief of Staff says.
Okay.
Is on page 7. Is that the Chief of Staff, Akosua Frema Osel Pare, has disclosed the reason she opted out as Member of Parliament for Ayaso West Wogon constituency after serving 2 terms. Speaking in a yet-to-be-aired interview on Joy FM's personality profile on Thursday, Mrs. Osei Opare said she declined to contest again because she had broken the myth surrounding the inability of incumbent MPs in the constituency to go past the 4 terms, the first term.
Right.
I hope most MPs will do this. You set a target for yourself. When you go, when you say, okay, I want to show people that I can do this, immediately you do it. Just say, okay, I'm not going in again. Let other people also come. But, some of them will wait until they are disgraced at primaries. And that thing, I think a lot of them should take a cue from what the Chief of Staff did there. This one says, NDC is the most useless, and useless is in quote, political party in Ghana, according to Kwesi Pratt. He explains that it is the most docile and ineffective political party in Ghana's history. He thinks he cannot understand why
he thinks the party is too soft.
Yes. Despite having a significant number of representatives in Parliament, has been resting on it all while giving the incumbent government a field day to inflict unbearable hardship on Ghanaians. So that's his reason of labeling the party as the most useless, that they are not doing enough to keep this government on its toes. But is it really true the NDC is a docile party, and I think they are doing awesome. Just that under some circumstances, when you feel they have to really follow this through, then they give up. For example, the E-levy. Right. I am sure if they had not worked out on that day, the MPP could not have used their numbers in Parliament.
Miscalculation?
I think so. But in fact, they had really kept this government on its toes till that last moment.
Right.
Because they said, oh, we want it at this point. They said, no, we are not giving it to you. Because
quick question, though. Which party do you feel is more vociferous in opposition, the MPP or the NDC?
Wow, I have to go back into time.
Maybe we'd have to reflect on that to find out whether Kwesi Pratt has a point or not.
Maybe.
Let's do Republic Press. Toll workers to picket over unpaid salaries and reassignments and provide innovative solutions to businesses, government policies, to universities. And you know, he jabbed Asiedun Ketia, General Secretary of the NDC recently, telling him that as a about economy in Nasifona, maybe he ought to go back to the UGBS for remedials. This country,
a lot of things.
This country, it be plenty things. But then BNFT, bullish outlook for large-scale gold production. Government to give maiden account of E-levy and mid-year budget. And African Development Bank meetings in Accra to set tone for Africa's transformation and recovery. Do you have a final batch?
Now, Momo Petro, this is the daily statement. Momo patronage now witnesses stability. It comes with a picture of Dr. Ken Agyapa, Ghana Telecom Chamber boss. Right. And this is good news. You know, people were saying that the whole hula baloo about people are withdrawing from Momo. It was expected. It's something that comes with these things. From the early days, people would react negatively to it, but then as we progresses, things will stabilize. And I think this is good news to hear. Kwabena Abankwayeboa joins MPP national chairmanship race. Well, let's see how that goes. AfDB plans Africa's recovery in Accra. Charlie, have you been to? Okay, I'm sure you've been to. You know, yesterday was my first time I'd ever been to East Legon.
Really?
Oh, yes. And in fact, as the guys I traveled with, I told myself, wow, this is a place everyone should live at a point in time.
The whole of Ghana, actually, I feel after 64 years, the whole of Ghana should have been better than the plushest areas in East Legon.
Charlie, but
based on, if you're just looking at the resources we have.
Well, we couldn't manage
in the ground.
We have not been able to manage.
In the ground and on top of the ground.
We have not been able to manage it well.
The mineral resources and our human resources. We are blessed with everything.
We have not been able to manage it well. I think we have to go to the guys in Dubai and let them give us their blueprint.
But that would also feed into the mentality that the black man supposedly, and that is why I love Nkrumah. The black man can do this for himself. And he showed all the signs. We had the blueprints, and then we did what we did.
Maybe we have to rephrase that.
24th February 1966.
No, we have to rephrase it and say, not some black men can do things for themselves and rule themselves. Not all of us. I mean, after him, everyone was.
I don't feel we've had anyone like him though.
No, we have shown that indeed we cannot do the things Nkrumah was doing. Look at the time he built the Akosombo Dam. That time, have we done
the foresight?
Yes, have we done something like
that? The motorway you were talking about.
Yes, the motorway. I mean, so maybe Nkrumah, we should rephrase his statement to say some Africans can manage their affairs, not all Africans. Well, we've shown that we cannot, some of us cannot. Look at the resources God has blessed us with.
Look at the Congo.
Yet
they basically have, a third of the world's resources?
Yet we go cup in hand, begging. Someone who is rich and is begging the poor countries for peanut. Where did we go wrong?
Leadership.
So it's not every African that can manage his own affairs. If we could, we would have been better than we are today. We have gold, we have diamond, we have bauxite, we have timber, manganese, we have timber, we've been blessed with black gold, oil. After a decade of oil production, what can we show for, that this is the outcome of it. Okay, I've heard we've pushed it into education, which is not bad. But really, can we really show some tangibles? Education is good. I don't say it's not good, but I'm sure that the revenues we've gotten, we could still get something to show for, to do something elsewhere, to say that, look, this is what we also got from our oil. So really, when you look at the way we've been blessed by God, yet we are not able to do the things that...
So be a But thank you so much, Kojo, for joining the news review. It's always exciting doing this with you. Right before we get into sports, I hear you have a bucket list, so I have to do this. Enoch Tokonu at Bank of Africa IT department. You have a bucket list for your niece. Her name is Keisha Aram Boateng. Keisha Aram Boateng. Tomorrow is your birthday. And we hear that you, Keisha, young as you are always watching Joy News and also listening to Joy FM. So from us to you, Keisha, happy, happy, happy birthday in advance. God bless you. Up next, we have sports. Do stay. Well, here we are. We'll be joined by our guests as we get into the inflation rate when it comes to food, especially. Food is what raised the inflationary rate to what we have seen in recent times, the highest in 18 years. But what specifically in the food basket is causing this? Joining us for the discussion, and let me start with the studio because Her Excellency, Bernice Abubedu Lanta is here. Hi, Bernice.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm well.
I love your shirt.
Thank you. I love your outfit too. Well, we have some guests. How about we get into...
We've been joined by Anthony Morrison, who is CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness. And like Benjamin said, we'll be looking into the specific components within the whole agribusiness chain that is causing the rise in food prices. Thank you so much for your time here this morning, sir. Good to have you.
Thank you very much. And very good morning to my own brother, Ben. Cincinnati, I always call him, and very good morning also to your cherry.
I was just whispering, Tony, to Bernice that we go way back to 1F, 2F, 3F in Bishop Herman, and then she was...
Cincinnati, it's always good to see you on the show. You're doing a great job. Keep up. You're changing the media landscape for us, and we always enjoy watching you.
Okie doke. All right, let's move away from me and talk about the real issues. So, Bernice, we have quite a bit to talk about. Food prices escalating.
Yeah.
What is causing that?
Yeah, so before we get into the specifics, I'd just like to take his thoughts on this issue of whether what we are seeing are realistic figures of the inflation. You know, there are those who say, and yesterday you spoke to Professor Lord Mensah, who argues that the inflation figures could actually be higher than what is being put out there.
He was saying that what he feels when he goes out there to buy stuff, I mean, it would be around 60%.
Yeah.
And I found that a bit rather curious.
Yeah.
Because he's saying that from the standpoint of an economist, what I feel, the temperature, when I go out there and fill my tank, my car tank and all of that, I'm feeling like 60%. And he feels the 23.6% is not even an accurate picture.
Yeah. So let me start off on that note, Mr. Morrison. What is your reaction, if I may say, to this whole debate about whether the inflation rates or inflation rate figures put out is a reflection of what's on the ground?
Thank you very much. Yes, first of all, I would like to start with the point that as a country, our economic fundamentals are very wrong. For instance, when the Economic Intelligence Unit came up last year to talk about our food security index, when they did the global food security index, and Ghana was downgraded by almost 26 places, and they enumerated 3 key areas: government commitment to its own policy alignment, and also failure to go with the malleable and Maputo Declaration that requires government to have an incremental 3% to 10% of our annual budgetary allocation for agriculture. Over the past 12 years, no government have actually put in more than 1% of our annual budget into agriculture. Meanwhile, population have grown by more than 6 million. And we still paying just a little attention to food security in the country. So for me, it boils down to our economic fundamentals. How is the economic position? How is the economy structured? The rural economy and that sector that used to produce a lot for us has broken down. So we do not have a lot to count on when it comes to the rural economy. It's totally in shambles because the money is not even getting to them to be able to do any better food production. So if you look at what the World Food Program, FAO, has put together in as a result of the FAO Food Price Index, in March, we were around 13%. Then, at that time, that was the fastest record, okay? Then it is slightly in April because government brought the forex interventions, put a lot of dollars into the system and to make sure that the dollar and the euro stop climbing up. Then, after a month, we are beginning to see 26.6%, the fastest in record in the past probably 18 to 20 years. So the data we have here is scary. I'm just taking a look at the United States Department for Agriculture and the data they have on the 4 top food priorities for Ghana. And it's scary: rice, wheat, soya, and maize. And it's as if every segment of this will be affected. Our production will be lowered by 20%. Our importation will increase by 23%. And I'm just sitting down here thinking from October, September, October, November, how food prices are going to be like in the country. And this is a matter of huge concern for me because things of food prices is a national security issue.
Okay. I just wanted to chip in, Tony. This bit you say about rural production, okay, rural agriculture. I do not know. You seem to paint a picture as though it were in shambles, but we have planting for food and jobs. Is that not having an impact on rural production?
Well, we have a farming population of roughly 4 million, according to the last agriculture census, some 4 years ago. Okay, and we have an agriculture farming population, as in the agriculture household, of about 12 million. All these are found in the rural areas. Okay, now PFJ, that's only attracted support for 1 million people, and even that, we had a lot of challenges in the implementation, and also we could not protect what we produce. The ministry doesn't have data to support any of their claims. Even claims from well-researched data from private sector are being disputed. Their own claims, as in data they have computerized, they disclaim their own data. So for now, we have cautioned the ministry since last year to start mopping up food on the market, mopping up food from the various agriculture and the farming zones so that we can have enough storage. As we speak now, if you go to the buffer stock, there is nothing in there. I mean, we can't have, if there is food crisis now, we can't have food from the buffer stock for even more than 3 weeks. So it is scary. PFJ,
Just to reiterate, what did you just say, Tony? Are you saying that we cannot have food in our buffer stock for even 3 weeks? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, of course, because the little we have been expanded on the free SHS. Government is owing the suppliers of food to the SHS. Buffer stock is also in arrest to those who have supplied them. And there are challenges across board. Okay? So we are not seeing that commitment of government that says that, look, we are in to produce and ease the food security of this country. We are not seeing it. And you see, we have a situation where we import 90% of all seeds we use for vegetable production in the country. We have a situation where we spend more than 60% in importation of rice and maize seeds into the country. So we do not even control our agriculture. It's like you are producing a car, meanwhile you import the engine, so you don't have control. The engine is the main crux of every automobile. So in the agriculture sector, is the seed that is the engine of what we do. And if you do not have control of the seeds you produce, then obviously you can't control anything. We have seen prices of glyphosate that used to be 15 to 18 cedis skyrocketing to now 52 cedis. We've seen prices of NPK, whether 15 or 20.55, skyrocketing from 180 to 380 now as we speak. Urea is being sold, used to be 220, now well over 400 to 500 cedis. The cost of production per acre for maize have quadrupled. Okay, so what we are projecting, and you see, it's scary because just coming back on the field in the northern region, we touched base with 6 of the FBOs that support smallholder farmers, and each of these are doing about 35,000 smallholder farmers.
Okay.
And their position is that they will not be able to support the farmers this year. And you know what that means? That implies that the farmers will have to find a way to produce their own food. They can't support the farmers with seeds. They can't support the farmers with fertilizers. They can't support the farmers with agrochemicals.
But why can't they? What's causing the challenge there?
There are no credits. There are no fertilizers in the system.
Okay.
So the little fertilizers that are in the system, you know, how it works is that as an SBO, they take the fertilizers from the importers on credit and then give it to the smaller holder farmers. Smaller holder farmers will produce, and the SBO management will take the crops back in terms of payment, and they will sell and pay back the fertilizer importers or the distributors.
Mr. Morrison, I'll just have you hold at this point and just please take note of what you're saying so that we can continue on that note. Okay. We've been joined by Edward Karowa. He's General Secretary of the Ghana Agric Workers Union. Good morning. Thank you for joining the program, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, so we've been having this conversation. I mean, the fertilizer, shortage of fertilizers, and how it affects and impacts the end product which we consume on the market. But there appears to be a lot of denial by government and the Agric Minister when it comes to the realities on the ground, what you tell us every day against what we receive from officialdom. So last year in September, we were told by the Agric Minister that we should expect food prices to stabilize by January 2022. And later in November, he said their statistics didn't show an increment in food prices against what the media was reporting. So here we are today, and we see that consumer inflation record has been pushed largely by the prices of food on the market. For you, what is the reality on the ground? And are we likely to see the trend change? Because government over time appears to tell us is working on it, doing something about it. Are we likely to see any change based on what you see on the ground?
Yeah, let me say good morning to you there and then my good friend Morrison. and all those who are watching us and listening to us. Well, I don't expect anything different. I rather expect the worst to happen at the end of this year and in 2023. You know, what we are consuming today is what has been produced last year. There's no new maize in the system yet. There's no new soybean in the system yet. All that we are consuming today is what has been produced last year. And it is true that government has always been in denial. You know, but there's one thing about being in denial. The time will come, it will show that you've been in denial. We had in last year, through government-owned data available, put together to show that we were heading for a low agricultural output at the end of the year. But government did not agree with us. Government still insisted that there was going to even be a bumper harvest, and we are seeing it today. If government had listened and accepted the problem and the reality that was to hit us, it would have taken steps. But when you are in denial, the very dangerous thing is that it does not allow you to take steps to look for solutions. Because if there's no problem, there's no need for solution. As we speak now, if you look at government policy for agriculture for this year, you just see that government has just invested in agriculture. There's no real budget for agriculture this year in 2022. And once we are failing to invest or we are de-investing, then of course we should expect output for this year to be very low. And then the consequences for us in 2023 will be dire than it is today.
We've been told about the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, even on the agri sector. Do you buy into that explanation?
Well, as of now, the impact of the Russian-Ukraine war begins to trickle in on agriculture too. It begins to trickle in. So all that we've been told in the past could not have been true, you know, but from now onwards, given our own budget or policy failures, and it will now be supplemented of, supported by the effects of Ukraine. From now onwards, the effects from Ukraine war will affect agriculture. And those combined problems, that is policy failure within the country, and then the external effect will make agriculture output at the end of the year very, very low. Now, the unfortunate thing is that, you see, we are in this problem for whatever reason. If government was in the past denying it, it has come to air. What government needs to do now is to take steps to actually lift the sector up.
And what would those steps be for you? What would those steps in specific terms be?
There is no shortcut to dealing with the agricultural challenge in this country. What we need to do is to increase investment in the agricultural sector. For this year in particular, we need to increase investment. As we speak, we are all aware that fertilizer suppliers have not yet been paid. The 2020 supplies they made have not been completely paid for. 2021 supplies they made have not been paid. And this year, if they continue to supply, it means they will not still be paid because there's no money. And there's no money for fertilizer purchase to be distributed to farmers. So you can just see that and yet this year we are de-investing. Government has come to tell us that the subsidy, which used to be in 2021, 36, 38%, is now reduced to 15%. But I'm telling you that this is all what is on the in the public domain. But the reality is that government does not even have the money, or is not even ready to commit the 15% subsidy into agriculture. Apart from that, the total volume of fertilizer that was subsidized last year, less than half of that one will be subsidized this year. If as of now there's no fertilizer in the system and the subsidized fertilizer is not in the system, when is it going to come in? It will come in at the time that it is no more needed. That is, if government is able to bring in the fertilizer. But I can bet myself that government is not going to have the fertilizer in the few months to come. We need a fertilizer now. It is not available. Few months to come, it will not be available. And farmers will have to go to the open market to buy the fertilizer themselves. I'm emphasizing on the fertilizer because it is a key input in agriculture. And it is one of the central pillars of this Planting for Food and Jobs program, emphasizing on agriculture. So it's just like this year, what has happened is that farmers are left on their own. They should not expect much from government for this year. But the consequences will be there for all of us.
Mr. Kariwe, Benjamin here. So I get the script, I get the narrative. And you've mentioned a number of things. I'll get into the inflationary rate proper with you. But before that, focusing on fertilizers, Mr. Morrison spoke about NPK, urea, and the range of fertilizers that you use. What would you say is the real impact of not having this in a year like we find ourselves in? Because, there's labor cost, there is diesel cost, which is, on experiencing some upsurge and all of that. But if you segregate just fertilizer, especially on the back of the promises that have been made by government, I want to find out what is the real impact, if you could quantify it in the mix of all the other components. How important is not having fertilizer?
Well, I think that fertilizer takes up to 70% of the impact that we'll be experiencing. For instance, if we are able to even meet the fuel cost, we are able to meet the other costs like other inputs, for instance, chemicals and so on. The plants need to have nutrients to grow. And the fertilizer is structured in such a way that we have the type of fertilizer that will help the plant to grow, to be strong. Then we have the other components of the fertilizer that will help the plants to actually produce the grain that we have. So even if you have the chemicals, for instance, to take away the weeds and then to deal with the pesticides, the plants themselves will not grow. And if they do not grow, they will not be able to bear the seeds that we want. So fertilizer is very key, very, very key. So I would say that the fertilizer would take about 70% of the impact that we are to experience this year.
It's important that you make that point, 70% you say. I'll come back to you, like I said, on inflation, but let's also usher in Dr. John Kuma, who is Deputy Minister for Finance. He joins the conversation with us in the studio. Doctor, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Let's start off from where Mr. Kariwe ended. He's talking about, yes, inflation, food production, but he's talking about components that are not available. I know you are not Agric Minister, but from where you sit, what do you know about this shortage of fertilizer and maybe plans to facilitate, the acquisition of same for farmers? Eventually, it will end up at your desk when it comes to money to fund that. How much can you share with us on that?
Thank you and good morning to your listeners. I don't really have the technical details of the fertilizer, except to say that, Ukraine has been about 50% source of fertilizer supply to Ghana, if you check our import mix. And so, yes, it's possible to have that deficit in the supply chain and its impact on our farm. I think the alternative is that we have to look at our internal arrangements and other sources to see how best we are able to bring in fertilizers especially the organic fertilizers. I'm aware that the Ministry of Agri and various compost centers in Ghana and fertilizer producers are working together to be able to meet some of these fertilizer demands. That's how much I think I know.
Is it, from where you sit, has it come to the point where, even from the push from the Agri Ministry to your side, it is seen as a pressing need? Because I don't know whether you heard Mr. Karewa when he said that 70% of their production, I mean, what the expectations are hinged on these fertilizers, and that of all the other components, diesel and labor and other components, fertilizer, if he looks at the impact, it is about 70%. He also projects that we are not going to be able to meet our needs when it comes to food production, when it comes to our estimations. When you factor that into the fact that our food pricing is going up the way it is, 26.6% month on month from March to April, affecting the overall inflationary rate, then it seems to be quite a challenge. So is there that pressing need to work on this, to push the button before things get out of hand?
Well, maybe you need to speak to the Agri Minister. I believe he will be able to give you the details of such suggestions. I don't have the details.
Okay. Let's get into the inflationary rate then. The highest we've seen in 18 years, in fact, since 2004. Did you expect an inflationary rate that would be this high from March to April?
Yes. In fact, yesterday, a similar announcement came through that the U.S. is doing 8.5% and is the highest in 41 years. I think all these are signals that the economies of the world are actually rebounding out of COVID, and it's a necessary process to go through from the difficult economic downturns that we all experience. And so for us, yes, if you look at the projection for the year, we didn't anticipate to reach that far. It was plus or minus 8%. We were hoping to stay and hover around 10%, or just above that. Unfortunately, it's gone as high as 23%, but we are not surprised because it's part of the rebounding process that almost every economy has to go through to get better.
My colleague Bernice will be coming in shortly, but I just wanted to find out from you, on the back of, and you rightly say it, your projection at the start of the year was 6 to 10%. We're looking at an increment of 4.2% from 19.4 to now 23.6. But in my interaction yesterday with Professor Lord Mensah of the University of Ghana Business School, he said that when you look at the tangibles in our economy, and for him going out there purchasing, what he's feeling could be as high as 60%. So my question then to you is, when we have 295 components out of the 307 in the basket that the Ghana Statistical Service has used to come up with these figures affected, what are we looking at doing in terms of our finance ministry and our economic infrastructure to change the script? Are we looking at bringing the figures down? Is that our expectation?
Obviously. If you listen, I'm sure next week also we're going to have the Bank of Ghana monetary policy meeting and announcement, and obviously Bank of Ghana will respond to it. Of course, you need to weigh also the variables that have brought this high inflation at this time. Some of the variables could also be due to imported inflation issues. Looking at what is happening globally, Ghana being part of the global system, doing a lot of importation and exportation. So we need to know how much of this high inflation has been imported inflation. How much of it is as a result of the domestic basket, as we are talking about food, fuel, transportation, and all those things. I believe all this will guide the Bank of Ghana to respond in the next meeting. And of course, at the fiscal level, the Ministry of Finance is obviously also going to put in place measures that will seek to bring down the inflationary measures and also engage the Ministry of Agri to see how best we can respond to the food issues and bring down prices as quickly as possible.
So, Mr. Kumar, this is Bernice here.
Yes,
Mr. Karowe raised concerns about the reduction in budgetary allocation for the Agric Ministry, considering all that we were going through last year with regards to food prices, issues with drought. One would have expected that there will be more investment in the sector to, deal with some of these shocks that the farmers and the whole sector is facing. Do you mind sharing with us why the budgetary allocation for the sector was revised or reduced?
Yes, I think over the years we saw that there was consistent increment in the budgetary expenditure. So let me say consistent deficit in the over expenditure of the Ministry of Agriculture, especially when it came to the issue of fertilizers. And every year, assuming you allocated 100, let's say 1 billion cedis for fertilizers, you ended up spending 2 or 3 billion cedis on fertilizers. So that was unsustainable. So it became an issue that we have to stay within the budget and the available resources to be able to address the concern that the fiscal impact that usually the overrunning of budgetary commitment bring on the budget and the fiscal targets and indicators. So I think it's one of the reasons why this time around the ministry engaged the Ministry of Agriculture to stay within its budgetary allocation and not to overrun the target as has been stated in the budget. And it's not only Ministry of Agriculture. We all know 2022 has been a very difficult year. We are even seeking to do about up to 30% budget expenditure cuts in various expenditures. So it's not only Ministry of Agriculture that suffered cuts in the budgetary allocation compared to previous expenditures, but it's also with all the other sectors, and the available fiscal space did not, allow us to do more than what we were able to do.
Mr. Kumar, I'll just request that if you can just speak up a little for us. It's a bit of struggle hearing you. Yes, but once you are here, let me just take your quick thoughts on some other issues we've been discussing throughout the week. We'll come back to the Agri conversation with our other guests. The E-levy has been topical. I mean, everybody's talking about the E-levy. And right here in our studio, we had a member of the technical committee, and he shared a lot with us. You realized from our callers that a lot of people didn't really understand what the E-levy is about, what transactions are affected by the E-levy and those that aren't. So the question many people posed was, why couldn't we hold on, especially because we are learning that on the 1st of July, we would have a better platform, an integrated platform, which will allow for more communication between the telcos and the banks so that all the deductions that are being made for transactions that are not supposed to be deducted won't happen. So why couldn't we wait till then? Till the education was done properly and we had a fairly stable system to run the E-levy?
Yes, Beatrice, thank you.
Bernice.
Please, can I go on?
Yes, please, you can.
Yes, thank you. E-levy education, I think we have been consistent with a lot of education on E-levy. Obviously, I don't think we can have enough of education. There have been public lectures, town hall meeting engagements, one TV or radio station after another. Everybody has been engaging the public on E-levy. I think there was no way we're going to have enough of the education. On the issue of why not wait, yes, if you have a good system to which you can roll out and test for July, you don't have to wait for a better one or the best one before you do it, because either way, you still have to test one. So let's even assume that from the May to July, it's just a good system, but we could have a better one. You are okay to do with a good system and deal with the challenges that come with it until you are able to get to the July where you have a common platform and all the telcos and charging entities are properly integrated on it, and then you are able to know in real time how the system is running. It can only get better, but I don't think you wait for better system because whilst you have a good one, and say that you are looking to perfect it, you are not going to have a perfect situation in any timing of implementation. And finally, we accept these challenges that have come, the complaint of charges that are not supposed, or exempted charges that are still being charged. And I can tell you that over the period, DRA has been refunding through the telcos and those charging entities a lot of the illegal and irregular charges that were not supposed to be done. So we are proactively responding to all the challenges that have been raised, and will continue to improve the system and respond to the concerns as they come.
Right. I would like to wade into the Agyapa situation as it's planned to be tabled again. But before we do so, just quickly on back to the inflation rate, just two quick bits. You've been speaking about imported inflation. Yes, I have a bit of a grasp of that. But yesterday, the finance minister mentioned it, and I'm sure ordinary Ghanaians would be thinking, how is inflation imported? Can you break that down for us? And tied to that, I just want to find out, I have been looking at this list, and it's an enviable log in terms of where we find ourselves. When I'm looking at the inflationary rates, all our neighboring countries, from Benin to even Mali with military dispensation, 4.5%, Burkina Faso, 15.1%. We find ourselves in a league where we are in with Sudan, Zimbabwe, and the likes. We are the fifth highest inflation, hit country on the continent. What are your quick reactions to these?
Okay, so let me start with imported inflation. Imported inflation is where activities on the global market affect your inflation situation in your country. So, for instance, Ghana is a net import country. We do a lot of importation from China and Europe and the US. And our freight alone, we used to pay $1,500 for a 20-footer container. We are now paying $9,000 for the same freight. Not any duties that government has introduced. It's just the cost of freight of your importation has shot up like 4 times. And so that obviously will make the importer add on to the prices that he's going to sell so that he'll be able to stay in market. So when we say imported inflation, it's about the activities, external activities that government doesn't have control over, and yet they all go to impact on the prices of our country.
Right.
So that's the breakdown of it. And then the issue of Francophone countries around us and their inflation levels.
I was basically talking about Africa, basically. The list encompasses all of Africa.
Yes, but even let's use West African Francophone countries like Togo, Benin, those ones you are talking about. You know that they have a special dispensation with France when it comes to their currency. And the difficulty they have is that all their monies are kept in the Central Bank of France, even up to today, even though they are independent countries. It has its positives and its negatives. And one of maybe the positives that it guarantees them is the levels of inflation, if you check. So when it comes to some of the economic indicators, by the time if you compare Ghana's financial indicators to most of the Francophone countries, you realize that they may have lower interest rates, lower inflation, but the overall economic impact will not be better than us. If you check, we are doing far better than these countries, except that because their central, their money are locked up in the Central Bank of France, they tend to have a different financial dispensation as compared.
But just because you're pushing that, let me ask you, Liberia is not a Francophone country. It's at 5.44%. You have other neighboring countries. Well, the Ivory Coast would fall into that league. But there are so many other, Anglophone countries as well within our sub-region that are still not where we are.
Yes, but you see, I've told you that we are not saying we are happy with where we are with our inflation, and it was not expected. If you check beginning of the year, we didn't anticipate to get to where we are. And just like all other economies did not anticipate. America, yesterday, they announced that they had 41-year inflationary rate. They never expected to get there. But these are all symptoms of how COVID impacted various economies different. I mean, now I've heard people complain about how Ghana suffered too much with inflation as compared to Togo or Cote d'Ivoire. And when you go into it, you realize that maybe Ghana took so many different expansionary measures to preserve our population as compared to different countries. And so, depending on the impact of your activities, you are going to go through some of these temporary high inflation to get better. And when you check, our economy is growing better. I mean, if you look at the economic indicators, if you compare to the same countries that you are mentioning, you realize that Ghana is actually on a path of better growth than some of these countries. So it depends on the impact, the financial decisions you make and its impact. And the assurance is that these are temporary ways we shall overcome and bring back the country to economic stability.
It's good you say we shall overcome. At this point, a lot of people just want to remain hopeful, but we've spoken to some people who believe that it will get worse before it gets better. Is that what you're picking also?
Well, it's our hope that we don't get worse, but like I told you, these are things nobody can avoid. It's a necessary process to go through because of COVID and what the world has been through. And all these things are just processes to bring us back and we'll get better. So let's all with that in store.
Just so anybody doesn't misquote you, are you saying indeed it will get worse before it gets better?
No, I haven't said that.
Okay.
I haven't said it will get worse. I said it shouldn't get worse than where we are. And even where we are, we didn't anticipate to get here. So it shouldn't get worse than that.
Dr. Kumar, I did hear you say that you were hoping it wouldn't get worse before it gets better. I mean, are we hinging our economic aspirations on hope?
No, we have our economic programs which we outlined right from the beginning of the year. And we told you our expectation of how things will go. And I'm saying that we have exceeded that in terms of if you look at our inflationary projections and what we are seeing now. So we are not anticipating for it to get worse. Wherever we have already exceeded what we thought we could reach. And so it should get better. And that's our hope. And we have the tools in place. In fact, next week, I believe Bank of Ghana will, the MPC meeting will meet, and they will also announce measures that they think, tools that they have to address the issues of inflation, and of course, the fiscal measures too, as we move on, the Ministry of Finance. We have already announced a number of them. We'll continue to do so until we bring these things under control.
So just to clarify, at 23.6%, highest in 18 years, can we hope that when the May inflationary rate is declared by the Ghana Statistical Service, it would not overshoot 23.6%? That, I mean, are we optimistic that we'll be able to hold it and it will not cross 23.6%?
That is our expectation. That is our hope. We should be able to bring it down.
Okay. Quick one before Bernice also comes in with another crucial matter. Agyapa seems to be in the process of being retabled. We've heard from the finance minister who says it's a, quote, good thing. But what exactly is resulting in this renewed vigor or renewed proposal of Ajapa? Because as I recall, Parliament, as far as the minority is concerned, they said a complete no to it. There was a large group of civil society that said no to it. In recent times, when Ken Oforiatta, the finance minister, brought it up, we've heard Kofi Bento of Imani Africa also go back to it. He borders on saying it is even fraudulent. So I am asking, what exactly is the basis for retabling Ajapa?
Well, so when somebody says Ajapa is fraudulent, what are the particulars of the fraud? Because nothing really has happened. It's just an idea that we can monetize our royalties, minerals, incomes, and our royalties to generate more income for the country. So what is fraudulent about that? You know, we sometimes when people use words, they don't provide it.
So if I may, and my apologies for interjecting, he calls it grand robbery, being cooked to be imposed on Ghanaians by government, and he says every bandit will be arrested.
Yes, I mean, it's easy to choose words and put them out there. What are the details of it? So who is robbing who? The fact that the finance minister says that we have gold since independence, we have gold and mineral resources which we have underutilized, and that there's opportunity to scale up the benefits from our gold, which we are primarily only getting from the raw gold that we have from it too. We could do the securitization aspect. We can do the stock exchange market, the other side of gold transactions in the world, where people who have not even seen gold are making millions and billions out of it. And as a country, we can also enter that market and seek to take advantage. Is that a fraud and robbery? So if people have concerns on how it's being done, we can engage, but let's engage in a discussion that opens everybody up to understanding and not shroud things in a language that brings everybody to level of suspicion. When we do that, we don't help our country. So I want to know the particulars. What are the difficulties? Yes, people may not understand, so they want more education on what do we mean? What can we do to escalate our benefits on our royalties and income from gold? What are you proposing, and how do we seek to achieve that? These are genuine concerns to raise, but to start calling names of robbery and fraud without basis, and every bandit, so who is the bandit here? The name calling will not help anybody in this discussion. So I think we should be fair, we should be honest and truthful to our own conscience, and understand that Ghana is not for me, it's not for you, it's for us. How can we make it better? It's only an opportunity for us to capitalize on what we can do better for our country. And I think if we can do and situate the discussion in the context of objective discussion, Ghana can stand to gain from the Ajapa deal. And I pray that, I hope that everybody commenting on it should do so with the objective of helping the nation be the beneficiary, not any individual or groups.
Dr. Kumar, we'll quickly wrap up with you. I must say that we still have Mr. Karowe and Anthony Morrison to wrap up the agri conversation. But let me just wrap this up. Later in the show, we'll be having a discussion with the National Labour Commission. Some labour unions are saying, look, you need to determine our salaries or, match our salary increase to the inflation rate. Is that possible?
Of course, there is higher inflation, and obviously, workers will be entitled to some review of their basic salaries, and I believe that government is ready for that engagement. As for the demand on, using the inflationary rate and all that, it's part of negotiation. People will start from different levels. Eventually, the reality of what is possible or what is available will be brought to bear in the deeper levels of discussion. And I believe, as we have always done it, we will definitely reach a consensus that brings assurance to our workers.
But at this point,
also make it possible for government to pay.
At this point, is government in a position to do that? I mean,
oh yes, we are ready to engage.
Okay.
As for whether we will arrive at A or B, it will come as a result of the committees who will engage. So let us not go ahead of what should be done. The people's expectations are allowed. I mean, you can put out your expectations.
it doesn't mean that is what the committee is going to do, because you know that all this should be benchmarked on what is available, the resources available, and that's exactly what will happen eventually.
CLOGSAC members have called off their strike. We were told by your colleague deputy that the neutrality allowance is off the table. How were you able to convince CLOGSAC to hold on to that particular request?
Yes, and let me thank the leadership of CLOGSAC and government and all the people who are the stakeholders who have been involved in this negotiation. It's been very challenging for them. CLOGSAC has never held on to neutrality allowance. It was not even their proposal in the first place to ask for neutrality allowance. So when it became a controversial matter to the public, they had no difficulty dropping that. And government is happy that at the end of the day, we are able to reach consensus with CLOGSAC and that they have called out their strike. We thank them for their support and sacrifices to the nation. Government will continue to do its best to improve on their working conditions.
Dr. Kumar, just a quick one. I wouldn't have come in again, but now that we're talking about neutrality allowance, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association says it is going to be campaigning for emotional allowance, and that will be hitting your desk soon. Is that something that is feasible? Emotional allowance?
Like I said, it's a democracy. Everybody is entitled to their hopes and expectations. It is in the end what you are able to justify and what the resources allow is what will happen. Let's not gag people on what they think they can do or cannot do.
Finally, Dr. Kumar, Ghana is going to host the African Development Bank's annual general meeting. What's in it for us? Yesterday's press conference was about the AfDB. And all the questions, that's what we reserved for the last one, right? Okay, so the good news is that Ghana is hosting the African Development Bank. They've been our fantastic development partners over the years. And the Pokwasi interchange was financed by the African Development Bank. And we believe that if we are able to position the African Development Bank better, their terms of engagement and understanding of the African problem is far better than some of these multilateral financing agencies that we go to, and they give us all kinds of conditionalities which make it impossible to grow our economy. So, yes, that's our hope. It's our hope that we host them and bring the entire Africa to Ghana this week, and that before they go, they will also, enjoy the Ghanaian hospitality and leave us also with the potential benefits of development of our country.
So, Dr. Kumar, I just want to top up. It's the first time we're hosting it. She asked about what's in it for us, but as it comes to us for this first time, what are we hoping to get out of it, even within this period? What are we hoping? What is the finance ministry and basically our economic platform? What are we hoping to get out of this opportunity now that it's come to us?
Well, it's an opportunity for Ghana to showcase our principles of Ghana Beyond Aid and Africa Beyond Aid. And the idea, even right from our independence, when our first president believed that our individual economic strength will not be enough to compete in the future global economy. So we must have an African continent that stands together as one, that is able to put their resources together and support all the economies of the continent. And so it's an opportunity for us to also influence Africa on the principle of Africa Beyond Aid by seeking to even ask for more resources for the African Development Bank, which will eventually benefit our country. That we can also, in future, look up to the African Development Bank as a good source of potential opportunities for growth and for our economy. So we stand to gain a lot, not just by way of influence, but also our contribution to the continent and influence in the direction of this continent.
Thank you for your time this morning. Dr. John Kumah is Deputy Finance Minister, and we're talking about a range of topics that affect the country's economy and finances. Let's get back to our initial conversation on agric and how the food price component in the whole inflation mix is what pushed us up to 23.6%. I've still got Mr. Edward Karowe on the line. Thank you for holding on. I really appreciate that, sir. So you spoke about the fact that government had reduced budgetary allocation for the agric sector in a year that you would have expected that more would have been given, considering what we were going through at the time in 2021 and the forecast for 2022. Mr. Kumah gave us some reasons. Are you satisfied by that?
Well, some of the reasons are just not tenable, and it has also been one of the reasons why we have been asking government to put in place certain policies, because there is a raining day. There's a day that things will not go on well in the international market. Now, given the explanation by the Honorable Minister that there's imported inflation, what it suggests to me is that Ghana's situation, inflationary situation, will get worse because we will continue to import, except that we are going to say for now onwards, we'll reduce our imports. And I'm not seeing that happening. So when the question was put as to whether things will get worse, he was not emphatic on that. But for some of us, the trajectory shows clearly that things will get worse. And also we are importing, and we import all the inflation into our country. So we are not seeing things. And again, what government is doing now should be the one that should give us hope. So when you even talk about hope, even though hope itself is not a conclusion, you need to have a very reasonable hope. And the reasonable hope will be informed by what you are doing now. And then from there, you can now say that all other things being equal, putting these things in place, things will get better, or we will arrive at this point. So we should have that hope. But it does not appear to me that we are putting those measures in place to have the hope that we are being asked to have.
Mr. Karowe, in times past, you've raised concerns about how government has executed its Planting for Food and Jobs program and other interventions in the agric sector. Would you say that if those interventions were successfully implemented and rolled out, the story will be better today, despite all the shocks, both internally and externally?
Well, we have always maintained that it's not enough to look at the intention of a policy or a program. But what is most important is the outcomes of those of the policy or the program. So perhaps government was happy to say that we have a policy that has got good intentions. We say no, let's look at what we are doing on the ground. The Planting for Food and Jobs program itself is a good one, but the implementation was poorly executed. Poorly executed. One, they started by increasing the farmer population every year. And then if you increase the farmer population every year, it means you have to also increase your fertilizer supply to them every year. So government subsidy for fertilizer for every year will go up. That's one. Then two, government did not also make sure that the fertilizer that is not even produced in Ghana, which has been bought with foreign exchange, will get to the target group. Much of the fertilizer was diverted, it was smuggled out of the country, and it never reached the farmers. So, and that could not continue. Secondly, government even went ahead to even confirm and told us that they have no solution to dealing with the fertilizer smuggling. How did they say that? They said even fertilizer is now being smuggled by donkeys without the support of human beings to smuggle it outside. And I thought that was a statement that encapsulated the failure of the ministry and the government to deal with the fertilizer smuggling. Then the other part was that we were also faced with natural disasters. And this year, given what has the trend, we should expect it. The Bagri Dam in the Burkina Faso, which they always spill every year, we know that they will spill the Bagri Dam. We had never found a solution to it. And each year they will spill it, and then it will come and destroy our farms and sweep away even livestock and so on, and human beings. Government's own investment in irrigation has also been poorly executed. The One Village, One Dam program has been a total failure. I want government to point to a particular dam, 1 dam, 2 dams, 10 dams, 20 dams that they have constructed under this, which are carrying water today. You know, and yet money was spent on it, so it was a failure. The other irrigation part has to do with the Orogo Dam, which is a very big dam. But the information we are getting today is that even the contractors are packing out of the area. Work is not ongoing. Nothing is happening. There's no money to continue with the project. So the 50 months that they even gave that for the completion of the dam will not be done, because there are already challenges even at the initial stages of the construction of the dam. So you see, all these things put together, the planning for food and jobs is a total failure. You look at tomatoes. Tomato was one of those items that was considered under the planning for food and jobs program. But we are in this country today, we are no more only importing from Burkina Faso, Europe, and the rest. Even now, we are importing from Morocco and other countries. And you know, the per capita consumption of tomato will continue to grow, because in every meal, you need some amount of tomato there. So this is an area that we should make it a point to produce. So if you look at the way we just run the system, the planning for food and jobs has only come to incur cost, because today we are owing fertilizer distributors, suppliers for 2020, 2021, and this year there's no clear budget for fertilizer. If there had been a clear budget for fertilizer, the fertilizer should have been in by now, you know. And as the minister spoke, we are all clear that there's no money and they don't know where to get the money immediately.
Okay, so
we don't
Mr.
expect
Karewa,
anything at all. So the planning for food and jobs.
Right. Mr. Karewa, we'll be engaging Mr. Morrison shortly, but I just had to chip in. Did I just hear you say that planting for food and jobs has just come to bring us cost, so to speak? I mean, on the one hand, you say it's a good policy. So what essentially are you saying?
Two things here. Policy with good intentions. That's one. But policy that has been poorly executed, and therefore leading to outcomes that are disastrous. This my description of the Plan for Food and Jobs program. So when I say it's a good policy, it's to say that the intentions are good. And intentions alone do not put food on the table of any person.
Mr. Karewa, so let's put it into economic terms. Are you saying planting for food and jobs has become a liability to us?
Yes, it's a liability. Today, the state owes. And where is the food? It owes suppliers. And those suppliers, if they also tell you the economic implications for the government not being able to pay them, it's so huge. It's not only about the value of the loan, the indebtedness, but they too have suffered the benefit of that money for other purposes, and interest is accruing on it, and so on. So that is the cost aspect of it. The cost aspect of it, again, is that the fertilizer did not get to the farmers. The quantity of fertilizer that never got to the farmers has been a cost to this country. To a smuggler out of who is making those costs for us to match it against the lack of food that we have today.
Mr. Karawa,
Yes,
let me bring in Anthony Morrison here. So Mr. Karawa paints a grim picture of the performance of the Planting for Food and Jobs program. He calls it a total failure and says it's a liability to us. What will your assessment of the Planting for Food and Jobs program be at this time?
Well, thank you. I also very much agree with Mr. Karawa. I think right from the start, those of us that were involved, especially to try to modernize the implementation, were not given the opportunity to do exactly what should have been the best. And we have continuously told the government that the production policy of the PFJ was a wrong one. What they should have done was to opt for a market-oriented policy, which is informed by what the markets want. Even though we do know the priority areas of government or as a country, what is done in the likes of Thailand, Vietnam, India, where we bring a lot of rice, where we import a lot of rice from, is that government puts out the data and says, look, this is what is available for this year. Those who are willing to buy rice now come and make payment. So government then invests the money into large-scale productivity and then get them the produce for these people. Then also the one that should be used locally. In our case, we are giving input to farmers. We started with first free, then it came down to 50, it came down to 30. Now, even at 14.7, we can't be able to even supply anything. So the implementation has been shambled. I mean, the implementation, I stated this earlier somewhere, that this PFJ is not a novelty. It's being run by a number of large-scale farmer-based organizations, the Shinkafa project in the north, with people over 120,000 on their data sheet. So it's not a novelty at all. It's something that has been running the system for over 12 years. What we did was to bring it into a national domain where it has been expanded to other parts of the country. So if Shinkafa and the like and many others are still running effectively, why is it that government has failed to do so?
So back, Ms. Morrison, sorry, back to my question, and I would like it to be as specific as possible. If you can, maybe a yes or no answer, and then you go on to explain. If the Planting for Food and Jobs program was implemented successfully, will our story be any better considering the external factors that are also influencing what we see now on the ground?
Yes, certainly. If the PFJ was implemented successfully, we would have been seeing a different narrative. For instance, we said to government, do not concentrate 100% on smallholder farming. Do 70% smallholder farmers and do 30% commercial large-scale farming. If that was done, we would have been seeing a different narrative. Two, we told government from the beginning that use a more IT-based skill in implementing the distribution. That wasn't done. The tagging only came in 2 years ago. Even with the tagging, it doesn't come with a lot of traceability. So where the fertilizer bag ends, we do not stay. And you see, and government, I think 2 years ago, made a very bad policy, where they rather decided that I think somewhere in the Upper East area where we get a lot of our maize from, were denied of access to PFJ produce, and they have even reduced the bag from 50 kg to 25 kg. So they implemented a number of incoherent implementation norms that did not support the production. And in all this, as I said, if you may permit me, the Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, stated that we import over 50% of our fertilizer from Ukraine and blah, 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 which is not true. What we do is 32.7%. Primarily, we import from US, we import from Europe, we import from China, Turkey, and Canada. And you see, sometimes we need to put the picture right. In 2021, government put in 1.2 billion. That is about 200, $1 million. Okay? I mean, that's too less to an industry that is well over $15 billion.
So Mr. Morrison, all these fertilizers we go to buy and import, it's all included in the cost component when you have to sell the product. Why is it difficult for us to produce fertilizer here in Ghana?
Thank you. Over the years, we have pushed for a local content policy for the agriculture production. For instance, we have been pushing government to undertake a more stronger policy where we can roll out the organic sector. Now, as we speak, a lot of companies have approached the chamber, and we are doing a number of work with them. What we should have done to boost that local content production, for instance, for especially the organic sector, was to declare one district in each region as organic-free district. As we speak, what it takes for an organic farm to be done, you will need a number of parameters, okay? But if we can go ahead, I'll give you a scenario. India probably are the leader when it comes to organic production in the world. What they have done was to declare a whole region as organic-free region. And they produce organic products and export it directly to Europe and America. Okay? So if a government is able to provide the right economic or ecosystem policy, you see the private sector coming into it. But we do not have such a situation in Ghana. So the opportunity for the local material to be used in organic fertilizer production, organic herbicides and weedicides is limited because government is not entrenching or taking the initiative to develop that industry. And that is where we are today. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having that challenge of even thinking about the fertilizer implication as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war. Okay? Now, moving from that, I think that just as we rightly called on government in 2020 when the pandemic came, we said, look, as a country, we do not have any resilient system or fund for to protect the agriculture sector, especially on production. In 2018, we had a program with the World Food Program and also with FAO. We told them that, look, in West Africa, what we needed was to have an agriculture social intervention mechanism. And this intervention could come in different ways. As fast forward 2020, when the pandemic came, we did not support the industry. No resilience fund, no pandemic relief fund, nothing. You see, and that was where we started having the problem. If government had made available some intervention for that sector, at the time we had the problem, because, for instance, a bag of 50 kg of maize at that time, 2020, was sold at 64 cedis. The pandemic came, it shot up by almost 20 cedis to 78. Then, of course, late part of last year, it shot up to 120, and now it's being sold at 180 and 200. for the same 50 kg. Okay, so you see that our agricultural economic fundamentals have been placed on a back footing. Nothing seems to be working in the industry. The poultry industry that employs about 60% of the value chain in the sector, over 400 poultry farms have collapsed. And you see, this is a major, major challenge. And what is going to happen is that smallholder farmers that produces for these poultry farms will no longer produce. In fact, they may not even be able to produce the 5 acreage they did last year. They may only do about 2 because the cost of production per acre have doubled, or in some cases have gone up 3 times. So they may produce only to feed themselves and reserve the rest and sell. Maybe the mother has to go to hospital, or they have to send a child to school, or they have to buy something for the house. So we in the city are going to have a brunt of these challenges. Food prices are going to go up tremendously.
Okay. We appreciate your time here, gentlemen. Unfortunately, this is all time will allow us. Anthony Morrison, the CEO, Chamber of Agribusiness, and you heard earlier Edward Karawe, who is with the General Agric Workers Union, GAU. So, Benjamin,
moving forward, I mean, there's also the talk about should inflationary rates reflect in public sector wages, for example.
Yes.
Is that something that can be done? I mean, if you even consider the 19.4 in March and now 23.6, is it something that is feasible? And again, how do we prevent? You were talking about clock sag. They say that they don't strike often. So when they do, it means things have come to a head. How do we prevent a recurrence? Those are questions we're going to be asking.
We'll be present to the Labour Commission shortly
on the next belt of our
after
conversation.
This. Do stay with us.
We're glad to have you back with us. We continue with our big stories, and this time we're going on to the Labour front. So what do we have for you? Well, 2 things, basically. One has to do with the bit about neutrality allowance for clock sag. There's been some agreement, so to speak, but it is awaiting, negotiations and what will emanate from the decisions to be arrived at. There's also the bit about whether we can justifiably peg the inflationary rate with public sector wages. Is it a possibility? Joining us, Ofosua Samoa is the Executive Secretary, National Labour Commission. Mr. Samoa, very good morning to you, sir. Well, that tone, never a good sign. So we'll just start with the conversation in the studio. Definitely. 2 crucial matters when it comes to labor.
Yes.
And these are no matters to play with because they can come back to bite hard. We saw what happened with UTAG at the start of the year and now clock sag.
Yeah. Well, I'm told we still have Mr. Ofosua Samoa on the line. Thank you for joining the program, sir.
Thank you.
Let's start off with the requests, if I may put it, from some labor unions that the increase in their salaries should match the inflation rates as we speak currently. Is that feasible?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not part of the tripartite negotiating committee, but I doubt very much from what I see. I doubt very much. 20% is quite substantial. I think that would be difficult for government to do, especially when the government is trying to cut down how much it spends to the extent that all government appointees have their salaries cut by 30%, their fuel and other allowances by 60%. I think that would be difficult for the government to do. But it will depend on how best we are able to negotiate.
Okay, so it's interesting you say that it will depend on how best they are able to negotiate. I agree with you on that, but
Yes,
you say you see.
justify it.
Yes, if they can justify it. But you say from what you see, it would be difficult. What do you see, first of all? And if I may add, do you also see the things they are pointing at? They are talking about the fact that inflation means that whatever else they do in our economy, whether it is food they are purchasing, whether it is whatever they are using, the components for their work, whether it is transporting themselves to work with fuel, everything else is going up. We have the latest rate, which even moves above what they were looking at when they were making their first claim at 20%. It is now 23.6%. So do you see that as well? And how do you think it could factor into engagements?
Yes, ahead of the 23.6%, but others have counted that they don't believe it. I just said it this morning. And like I'm saying, if the government is in the position to pay, fine. Unless they will have to make sacrifices. I'm not sure that because inflation is 26% or fuel has gone up by 26%, everything in the country has gone up by 26%. Water hasn't gone up that. Electricity hasn't gone up that. And not all food items have gone up that. So I think we should be a little bit considerate of the government's position for now. So the government is doing a lot. I saw that.
Mr. Samoa, okay, so I find it a bit interesting. Let me just bring this in. You say that some people don't even believe it is up to 23.6%. Well, this is coming from the Ghana Statistical Service, so I don't know where else they would be getting their data from. But when it comes to your saying that not everything has gone up, here's the interesting part. In the basket of things that the Ghana Statistical Service uses, there are 307 components. Out of the 307, 295, call that 7% plus, has gone up. Transport has gone up, the most recent one, by 20%. Food prices have gone up month on month. In fact, now we're looking at 26.6%, which is part of what led to the increment in the overall inflationary rate of 23.6%. So I struggle a bit to get it when you say not everything has gone up. Practically everything has.
Anyway, for now, my current position, I'm a civil servant, So if they are successful, I also benefit. So I wish them well, that they are able to use the statistics or all the figures they are mentioning to justify the increment they want. Because I don't want to poke my nose too much. So if they are successful, I'll also be a beneficiary of the 20%, but I doubt that government can be that cost.
Mr. Samoa, in your earlier submission, you mentioned that these labor unions that are making these demands of government should appreciate or understand the circumstances government finds itself in. Do I get the indication that you perceive them to be overbearing?
Oh, no, I wouldn't want to use that word. And that's why I said a bit considerate. Yes, just a bit considerate. Because it's all over. Sometimes we talk about this COVID. Recently, the Russian-Ukraine war. People think Ukraine is far away. But we get wheat from there, and we import things from Europe. What do you call it? Germany and so on. They also rely on gas from Russia. So if they have their gas cut or they have their increment and so on, definitely it's affecting the global economy. We can't run away from it. We can't run away from it. Recently, the road tools have been abolished. We saw about 800 people who have been rendered jobless. The government must find a place for them because we said that we are going to reassign them. And we need money, government needs money to do that. The free SHS, during our time, you will opt to go to a secondary school, and that is when you write the common entrance. And then you pick a form and choose your schools. But now, because the SHS is free, people who ordinarily would not have gone to the secondary school, everybody is going to the secondary school now. Free food, free days. I mean, seriously, 111 hospitals under construction, roads, and and we all enjoyed it. We all enjoyed it, whether you are a civil servant, whether you are a public servant. whether you are in the military, everywhere. In recent times, when you look at even their security situation, you have to look at what is happening in Burkina Faso. It started from Niger, Mali, it's getting close here. And we have to, and when you engage the soldier, it's not like me and you that you just pay as our salary. From their boots, their gun to their head is catered for. And especially when you are going to put them in the bush on red alert. So all these are, what do you call it, occasions or cases that may not have been anticipated, right? But now that it has happened, there should be some funds to take care of it.
Right. So just to chip in this bit when it comes to the neutrality allowance, do we have it that it's been stepped down? Because we know that as of May the 11th, that issue had been addressed. So what is the status of that? Has it been resolved?
It's been resolved.
Right. We know there are further engagements with CLOGSAG to give them, some of what they want. And I know I'm chipping in the other side of the conversation, but bringing in this neutrality allowance bit, is that to say that as far as CLOGSAG is concerned, payments have been made, everything is settled, moving on, we're not going to have any issues with this specific allowance?
Well, they have issued a letter that they are satisfied with their engagement with government and that they are calling off the strike. So I think that is enough.
All right.
It may have been paid, it may not have been paid, but enough arrangements have been put in place for future payments.
So what arrangements are those?
No, I'm saying it may have been or may not. But I know that if it has not, then it means enough arrangements have been made with government for future settlement.
Talking about allowances, in today's edition of the Republic Press on page 4, nurses are also saying they deserve emotional allowance.
Is it because somebody is getting a neutral?
So that comes to my question. So once government has heeded to this request by CLOGSAG and going ahead to effect payment as at the 11th of May 2022, don't you think this is going to open the floodgates for some of these other worker groups and unions to also push for what they deserve? Because the nurses explain that they actually go through a lot of emotional stress in doing their work.
Or because somebody has got something, they must necessarily get something.
Well, Mr. Asamoah, we do not speak for them, but they are saying that they need this.
Ask this question. As the morning show host or producer of Joy FM and the other stations, which begins at 6, at what time do you leave home? About 3 a.m. How much risk allowance is given to you? So if we don't take emotional allowance here, risk allowance here, I mean, I don't know about them.
There are those who pushed against this neutrality allowance, saying that it was going to cause, problems like this. But first off, let me just say we don't even know if the Midwives Association is doing this just because CLOGSAG had its neutrality allowance approved. But there are those who say that once you do this for CLOGSAG, then there are those who've had issues, even in the past, who also begin to push for what they want that they feel is justified.
I think we have to look at the whole salary and wage system again. Because sometimes somebody may work in the civil service. At our place, people are taking home 702 cities, 720. Which nurse will take this? Which teacher will take this? So the salaries are not the same, depending on where you work. Even we appointees that they call as chief executives, executive secretaries, and so on. Somebody's salary, right, is just next to or have that of another PA. So we have to look at the whole thing holistically and not, in piecemeal emotional allowance here, neutrality allowance here, risk allowance here, clothing allowance here, and so on. And you see, it is the name neutrality allowance which is confusing people. But if we have to go into it, what went on before that allowance was granted, I'm sure it's the name that has not helped.
Right. The name may be creating confusion, but the government side agreed on the name. So whatever the technicalities are, we do know that it's not necessarily on the back of neutrality. But once you couch it as such, people will put it in that light. But let me ask you, Mr. Asamoah. So when it comes to the emotional allowance that these registered nurses and midwives are asking for, are you saying it is not justifiable? Is that what you're saying?
Is it for those who will be in the trauma center or any registered nurse who go and get this emotional allowance? Because if you after completing SS, you enter a midwifery school, right? You know you are going to be a midwife, take care of delivery. And they are not always in the maternity. They do public education, they do antenatal and postnatal care. How many times are they doing the delivery? It could be for 1-2 years. A midwife may not have entered taking delivery, but she's doing other things. Postnatal care, antenatal care. What is the emotion attached?
So in other words, it is what they are expected to do. Mr. Asamoah, in other words, it is what they are expected to do, so there's no justification for this. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying there's no justification, but what I'm saying that in our present state in this, a little consideration for a demand. When did this emotional allowance of this midwives and nurses come? If we are talking about those in the accident and trauma center, well, some of the accidents when they bring them, yes, if you are there within 3 months, you pay something for the emotion and the things you are exposed to. Then the treatment will also come. When all of us were running away from COVID, doctors get to the COVID ward with every part of their body covered. When the people die, where do they take them? Is it not the mortuary attendants who sometimes work with their bare hands? Which of them should be traumatized or be emotionally compensated?
But have you considered the patient-to-nurse ratio in the country? They are also talking about stress.
And when it happens, it's delivered to the poor mortuary. Then they will also come for something again. And it will be round, and the whole system will collapse. So let's be a bit considerate. This is where we find ourselves.
So finally, Mr. Asamoah,
in crisis. What can we do to help?
Mr. Asamoah, finally, so I get your point on the unending request from work groups and labor unions. Also on the same page of the Republic Press, page 4, the senior staff of some universities in the country are threatening to embark on another strike to demand payment of certain allowances. So you earlier spoke about restructuring our salary portfolio so that we can deal with some of these things, because every now and then you hear issues of allowances. Yeah. How do we handle this so that, every group is satisfied and we know that maybe at least you have to hold on for 5 or 6 years before, if there's a need for another allowance, it will be considered?
I think that is in the domain of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. They can speak to that better. Because, as a commission, we are like a quasi-judicial body, and when there's disagreement, we come in to settle. So I don't want to get into a debate with this. So.
No, I'm just asking you to give us your suggestions on how we can remedy what you call a problem.
Yeah, so the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to be empowered enough to, look at this whole salary structure again and allowances seriously.
Mr. Asamoah, we'll be moving on, but the very final bit to you, you said something interesting that I just want you to briefly take a look at. You said, and I quote, "We're in a crisis. What can we do to help government, so to speak?" But how about we reflect on the other side? People are also bleeding, so to speak, suffering from all the things that we're going through. How can government also help them? And that is where these allowances and all are coming in.
It's all part of the crisis. There are people who are bleeding. So those who have extra blood are donating to the blood bank. That is why people have given up 30% of their salary, 50% of their other allowances, so that will go into, donating blood to those who are bleeding. And when you need the blood, sometimes you get the blood infused into your business street. Sometimes you are giving hemoglobin and other blood tonics to bring you on. So depending on, let's look at all that. We are in crisis. That is what I can say.
We appreciate your time and contribution, Ofusamu, as Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. Benjamin, very interesting analogy he cites there in wrapping up the conversation. But that will be it for labour-related issues. When we come back, we'll be having a conversation on the introduction of a new concept and program by Joy Learning. You want to stay with us?
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. We now talk to you about your favorite learning platform, Joy Learning. Joining us, Nana Asiedu Asante, channel lead for Joy Learning, and she's here with us in the studio. Nana, good to have you this morning.
And thanks for having me.
So it's been a while. I can get why you are so excited to see me this morning. We have our own things that we. But Joy Learning, it's come far. 2 years plus, and especially during the times of COVID, very relevant content that we produced. But tell us, how far really have we come in these 2 years?
One of the things that I always say about Joy Learning is basically about our achievements within just 2 years. Because we came at a very opportune time, at a time that there was no hope for students of Ghana, especially the poor and the most deprived. Joy Learning came in at the right time. And with the power of television, we're able to penetrate through the homes of many people, and they had the opportunity to continue with the education. So that is what the Joy Learning project is about. We have introduced many television programs. Now we are using digital media also to educate children wherever they are. And you spoke, I would say that 2 years and the kind of impact we have done, the kind of impact we have made on the millions of students across Ghana is massive, because for a project like Joy Learning to start with just a fund that was taking care of just 450 students from 2008 to 2017. But for now, with the initiation of the Joy Learning project, with us introducing TV and the digital platform, e-learning platform to teach students, we have been able to impact many lives. We impacted millions of young students. We started by providing senior high school lessons. Now we have introduced, because of the pandemic, we had to expand to junior high lessons. And then now we are introducing more lessons, even to cover the primary level.
You know, sometimes I even get shocked when I get on there and I see the sort of things that are being taught. And I'm like, hey, where do we know much be?
I know.
So it's like a full school. Yes. I mean, we're doing, it's like...
It's a complete school on television.
A complete school on television.
You can stay in the convenience of your home and be educated. It doesn't matter who you are. It is now, e-learning is not just for the rich. We have made it accessible. It can be for anyone, provided you have a television. You will be educated from the comfort of your home.
So it has been more than timely, if I may put it that way. But something else I've noticed, it has also created content for even parents who want to aid their children.
Yes.
You know, there are some who go through homeschooling and all of that. This has also been very relevant in creating content for such parents.
Beautiful.
To add up and, teach their own children. And I also know I've had interactions in the past with some students, and some of them make mention of Joy Learning.
Yeah.
So the impact cannot be, understated in any way. But I also know that there's a scientific study, in recent times that has given, and you know, sometimes we need empirical evidence to say that this is the backing that you are actually achieving results. Tell us a bit about that study.
Beautiful. So the story is beautiful, like I said. The business, you know, the Joy Learning project was introduced by the multimedia group. We have commissioned, because after 1 year of broadcast, we decided to commission a research on Joy Learning to see whether indeed the impact that we are making are very positive. And then the results, the outcome of the result was clearly defined, that Joy Learning was a useful piece and was universally accepted by every student, even beyond the borders of Ghana. That is how far Joy Learning
even
has,
beyond Ghana.
Yes, even beyond Ghana. So like I was saying, now we need to grow the channel. We need to, we know that a lot of students are now relying on the Joy Learning channel. We need to accelerate our growth. We need to provide them with a lesson. We need to reach every child. So as we are expanding, like I said, we need to include the upper primary. We need to include primary level. So we have introduced contents and concepts for them as well.
And for me, why this is so relevant is, you know, we have the wahala with textbooks.
Yes.
So without that, Joy Learning is intervening, standing in the gap, and providing you what you don't have.
Then you are smart. That's why you are part of this group.
I think I should get more into the Joy Learning.
Because you are thinking, yes, you are moving with us. And that is one of the reasons why we had to accelerate and introduce content for the primary level. Because we realized that the curriculum has still not produced textbooks. They are lacking textbooks, yet they are teaching. So we have gone ahead to use the platform to educate them using the textbooks. The teachers, we have teachers who are teaching them, and we have provided all of contents for all these students who are now moving even faster than what the teachers are teaching them in school. We started just last month, and we started teaching the class 4, class 5, and to class 6. So they have also got a share of the Joy Learning cake, and we have dubbed the lessons basic classroom for these upper primary levels. Now,
So I'll just interject and say this. If you want to be ahead of your class, if you want to make the most of your courses, watch Joy Learning. That is where you will get all the content, what you will not get anywhere else. I mean, we are the only platform doing this.
Yes, so far, we are the lead platform, because we started way before COVID. Though there are other platforms who are trying to adapt to us, we have taken the lead, because the target, like I said, is not to commercialize the project, is not to make money out of parents. We see how the economic situation is devastating. We have decided that this project is not for profits. This project is a corporate social responsibility of multimedia group. We are not expecting anything from it. We are using a percentage of the monies that we are receiving from our other units, and we are coming out of this not-for-profit content, which is Joy Learning projects. So whatever we are doing for the society is what we are giving back to the society.
I was just about to say that. So that's our own way of giving back directly to society.
To them. So one other key concept that we have also introduced is called the teacher and you. We have broadcast lessons for years. We have provided SHS, JHS. There are a lot of questions that the students would want to ask, because watching TV, unless it's a live show, unless it's one of our revision shows,
interactivity is not.
It's not there unless you have it, but mostly it's recorded. And then even if you are in school, you can still go on our YouTube page and download the lessons for a recap. But then we needed to come out with a direct interactive program, so it can be between the teacher and the student, and without the teacher and you. It means that...
So is that one of our new concepts?
It is the newly introduced program. It is the teacher and you. It's on Saturdays at 12 noon. All you have to do is to have Zoom. Download the Zoom app, and then we have the password and an ID. We have promoted it. It is spread through all our platform. You only have to pick the details and join the online classroom for free. You don't need to...
For free. I want you to
for free.
Focus on
You
that.
just
Free.
need
You don't pay anything.
You don't pay not even 1 cedi. Because I've said that this is a project that multimedia has decided to do to give back to the society. We are not expecting anything out of it. We only want to support the students of Ghana. So we have our online virtual class dubbed Teacher and You for free. All you need to do is stick and stay with all our platform and then get to know the subject teacher, because we started with English language, we proceeded with core maths. This week we have integrated science, one of the best teachers in Ghana from St. Mary's Senior High School.
Oh, okay.
Yes, who will be teaching us. So at 12 noon, you'll be amazed by the number of students that we have to accept. We have to be hosting every time. Wow. Even parents are joining. They join with their kids and they are ensuring that the child is attentive and will be on it until the end of the program. And you see, what makes it more interesting is the fact that you have a direct interaction with the teacher. You are able to ask questions and win rewards. We'll reward you. We give you awards for free.
Apart from the free interactivity, you're also giving them rewards?
Yes, we reward them.
I also want to come and learn.
All you need to do is join the meeting, join the Zoom class, answer your question, or submit your assignments on time, because we'll provide you with an email address, and then the teacher marks it. And if you are correct, voila.
Wow.
Yes, we award. Where the award to is interest. You don't need to come here. We will post it to wherever you are.
What are we looking at? What are some of the things?
We have beautiful branded items, learning materials, so that it can aid them in their studies. So we provide them with books, pencils, pencil cases, and other, wherever they are, notebooks, we post it to them. Bags, whatever, name it.
Nana, I am thrilled, excited by these new developments.
Yeah.
But so, apart from all of these, and this is monumental, because if you look at the last 2 years, and if this is how far we've come with all the millions of people watching us, I mean, I've been privileged, I should say, to have been in the space where some of these teachers have been delivering their lessons, literature and others, and it always excites me.
Yes.
What more can we expect from Joy Learning in 2022 moving forward? What are some of the things we can look forward to?
Many other things. One of the things that we want to do is to come out to involve every child in our programming. So in as much as we have come out with these contents, there are many other contents that we are bringing in. We are one day coming up with a club, a society.
A club?
Yes, a club that we can find each representative from each school, so that when we want to disseminate information, when we want to pass on information to everyone, there's going to be a joint learning club across all schools. So these are one of the most exciting concepts that we want to do, because the project is not stopping today or tomorrow. We have a lot of...
It has come to stay.
It has come to stay. We have organizations that have started with us, and they are still carrying us, they are still with us, even up till now. And I'll take this opportunity to say thank you to them. Before I say thank you, I'll say thank you to Multimedia Group.
Right.
Multimedia Group has done for Multimedia
foresight,
Group to come up with this initiative to support these. I think of the most deprived. I always say, because we know these urban areas, students have access to other e-learning platforms, they have quality education, but for us to think of those who are so poor in the deprived areas, for us to come up with this initiative is a great one. So
if you look at it, you have a TV, or if you don't have a TV, even with smartphones now, you're good to go.
Exactly, and that is why we have so many digital concepts that we use to engage. And I'm sure you know about a lot of our digital, including our essay writing competitions, our riddles.
I've been following
those to reward students wherever they are in Ghana. That's it. So that's, like I'm saying, I want to show my appreciation to Multimedia for this great initiative, and then to our support, our partners who have been with us from the beginning up till now, providing us with free services, because it's a not-for-profit initiative. They have seen our vision and they want to ride with us. They want to move with us, because we are moving. We are not coming back. We keep soaring higher and higher. And one of them is SES. And then KNET, they are providing us with internet and satellite services.
Right.
And we want to say a big thank you to them.
Well, you've heard it from the horse's own mouth. Nana Asiedu Asante is channel lead with the Joy Learning. And like she says, we are not stopping. In fact, we can only go forward. That's what we're doing with Joy Learning. So you can also come on board. I'm sure if there are others who are also willing to join and support the cause, we'll welcome them.
We are open now. We have started. So if there's any organization, individuals who are willing to support this beautiful cause, we can have a conversation.
We'll receive it.
We'll receive it.
Nana, thanks for coming. Nana Asiedu Asante, channel lead Joy Learning, has been with us. If you've never experienced the Joy Learning experience, you should try it, whether you're a parent or a student. But coming up next, we'll be reflecting on your comments. We'll be taking your comments on the issues that we've been discussing on the show this morning. You don't want to miss a beat. You can send us a message on social media with the hashtag AMShow. When we activate the phone lines as well, you can call. We'll also be joined by Samuel Kojo Brace. We'll be back.
Thank you for staying here on the AM show. Share your views and thoughts with us. It's been quite a packed show today. So please, when you call, just try and make your comments and suggestions as short as you can. Very short, 30-40 seconds, your point should be made. I'm still here with Benjamin. But let me go quickly onto our Facebook page, because we've been asking you how the recent hike in food prices will affect your budget, and some of you have been sharing with
or likely is already affecting your budget.
Zaidu Kumbil says, it is sad. I think Ghanaians should be celebrated as heroes. We've seen the cost of living triple, fuel prices skyrocketing, wicked taxes imposed, and sheer government insensitivity, and we are surviving. We are heroes. Interesting. Priscilla says, I tell you, my brother, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel like, Charlie, by the time you're able to get to the end of the month, you wonder how you made it, considering all that you have to spend and what you earn. Good Heart Barat says, hunger is an attitude.
I don't quite get that.
Yeah.
Hunger is an attitude.
Doesn't really answer the question, does it?
Okay.
King Zology says, most leaders of this government may not dodge hellfire when they die, because what they told us versus what we are seeing now is unforgivable. And Nanefua says the prices are way too high. Serious, so everything is from 5 cedis upwards. And the two replies to that. Nanefua says, and yet easy to wait. It's not easy. It's difficult. And Nanefua comes back to say, I was shocked this morning, crab. One crab for 5 cedis. I wonder what size.
Have you asked of snails in recent times?
No, but you see, it's all down to sizes, and it points me to something I saw on Israel's Facebook today.
Right.
He was talking about standardization. So if you say one crab is going for 5 cedis, what's the size of the crab? What's the weight of the crab? If you say a snail is going for 3 cedis, what's the size of the snail? And it also affects our pricing, and we don't even know. For example, the Ghana Statistical Service, the ball of kinky, they sample.
They used in there.
Because some go for 2, some go for 3, some go for even 4.
But that bit about standardization is a big problem. When you go into other parts of the world, you know that a kilo of this, they have their weighing systems and all of that. We don't have that here. And that is what has raised the question about some people talking about, back then we had this, I've forgotten the term, it always comes to mind, but where you couldn't sell beyond a certain control price or controlled price. In our economy, we can't do that now, but some people are also taking undue advantage of the situation. Yeah. How can some people sell one tomato for 2 cedis?
Yeah,
but others would also tell you it's because of the cost at which we are getting them. So it is a big issue.
Yeah, we only sell in weights when you go to the large supermarkets. I don't want to mention names, but we have a caller, Kofi, joining us from Akwetaman. Thank you for joining the program. Please keep your comments and suggestions very short. Good to have you.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. Good morning. You are doing a great job over there.
Thank you.
God bless you so much. Now, the point is, as your colleague was saying, we live in a country whereby each and everyone take advantage of the situation. Because you don't have price control, everybody does whatever he or she thinks. And the painful aspect is we call ourselves Christians. That's my thing. All what is happening, yes, politics and stuff, let's forget about it. Let's ask ourselves the genuine questions that, are we doing right? How you getting the picture? You increase stuff that you are selling maybe at a lower price because you want a bigger distance. What is happening? Do you understand? And I have a second question to ask about this cross-acting or those who are asking for increments that will go at par with the inflation. Now the question is, if inflation comes down today, are they going to say that they should reduce their salary to that? All of us know what is happening in the system. Are you getting me? We live in the situation is hard.
Point well noted,
all these things.
Sorry, Kofi, we need to end it there so we can take other callers. We have, is it Klinsmann or Kings?
Yeah, reminiscent of the German footballer. So I don't know whether it's Jürgen Klinsmann, but do we have Klinsmann on the line?
Yeah.
All right, Klinsmann, just a quick one. Is that your real name? Did you get it inherited from?
Yeah, it's my real name.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So what are your quick thoughts for us? Hello, Klinsmann.
Yeah.
Please, your quick thoughts on the discussion we're having.
Yeah, all I have to say is that the increase in food prices has affected me a lot because nowadays, even so below that was 1 city, now there is no more 1 city. The space is growing. So what I can say is the economy is hard, but you have to put in much effort so that we can help ourselves.
Okay. Klinsmann, where are you calling us from?
From Kumasi.
All right, thank you for joining the program. We have our last caller today, Barnes. Thank you for joining us. Where are you calling us from? And let's hear your thoughts quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Barnes, speaking from the Volta region, specifically Golokwati. I'm more concerned about the labor issues. Unlike, I've heard about the neutrality allowance and whatsoever it is. I believe strongly that as journalists, you guys have not really done us so much good. I'm sorry for saying that. Should have gone down to do more research on some of these allowances. And when they talk about CLOSAG members, which people constitute CLOSAG members and what job do they really do? It's as if all the issues have just been relegated to session group, just a certain group of people who just administer administrative duties, and we feel that they don't do so much work. So I believe that when issues of this nature come, we just go down a little bit as technical people to look for the technical people to give us the actual explanation on what these people are asking for.
Point well noted, Barnes.
About that.
Thank you for joining the program and sharing your thoughts. Quickly, we'll go to my colleague, Kojo Brace, who's been sampling some of your views.
Ghanaians engage you to give the microphone to you as a citizen to share your perspective on matters that border on your welfare and well-being. The question we're asking today is, in the face of the rising cost of living, how are you managing for you to go through this phase? Let me start with this young man here. Chief, thank you very much. I hope you're well.
Yeah.
So, in these times when price of goods and services are rising, how are you managing?
It is very difficult for us now. Now, how to manage is very difficult. If you want to take care, it's very difficult. If you want to charge, if you charge the person says no, the price is too hot. Now we are trying to manage it. Everything management. That we can't do anything possible. Yeah.
How is that impacting on how you manage your home? You have a family?
Yeah.
How is that affecting how you are managing the family?
Oh, now our feeding fee, the kids feeding fee, those things, they have increased them. That we manage, if we leave home, you spend a lot. Not easy. You spend a lot before you leave. That's why sometimes how to take 3 meals is very difficult for us. But God is with it. That's why we are doing everything possible.
Thank you. So there you have it. He has told us about how he is managing himself in this economy in these trying times. Let's get other people to share their thought with us here. Young man here. Let me try and engage him. Chief, I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm okay.
How are you going through life in these times?
Oh, boss, the way we are struggling in this country, you know, it's not easy for us. It's not easy for us. Things are very hard. Yeah, things are very hard. Because I don't even know what to say. Because our salary is not enough for us. So we can't sustain this country anymore. No, we can't.
So how are you, your salary is different, but how are you going through it? How are you managing?
Boss, let me say, from my place, I live at Ofanko Barrier. I have to work from my home. But first, I used to board a taxi before coming to board a bus to Accra. But right now, I have to work from my home before coming to board the bus. So it's very hard in this country. It's very hard.
Aside that, what else have you cut just so you can manage the yourself in this period you find yourself?
Okay, let me say, at first I used to buy food from outside, but right now I have to go to the market myself and buy the foodstuffs and keep it in my home. So that is what I'm doing to manage myself right now. Yeah.
Let's get more thought here. We're still getting more thought of Ghanaians on this particular topic of how they are managing themselves in the spirit. You're a citizen. Let's talk. Chief, I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm good.
How are you managing yourself in this period we find ourselves?
Yeah, in fact, this time around, the system is very hard. You know, I used to trade, but now the economy, everything is high. So it's difficult for me. Yeah.
So with that, how are you going through it? How are you managing yourself in this circumstance?
Yeah, we are just pushing ourselves through, no matter how hard it is, because we have no option. Yeah.
So are there any things you've reduced or you've cut short from how you used to do it some time ago?
Yeah, there are so many things. I've changed a lot in my movement, the way I used to. Yeah, in fact, in my normal chores, because there are certain things that
Coach Obre is there with some of your views, and you know, no matter how hard times are, you always need water, because water is life and it regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through strict purification processes to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect size for every occasion: 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 550 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like Benjamin. We also have introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Now remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchase, contact 026-235-1251.
Well, let's talk money. Did you know that the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected businesses is exempt from tax for 5 years? Any young entrepreneur engaged in manufacturing, information and communications technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism and the creative arts, horticulture, and medicinal plants does not need to pay any income tax on these activities for their first 5 years of operation. Sounds good? A young entrepreneur engaged in a business that enjoys an initial 5-year concession benefits from the following applicable tax rates for an additional 5 years. If you are in Accra and Tema, you enjoy 15%. If you're in the other regional capitals outside the 3 northern regions, you get 12.5%. If you're outside the other regional capitals, it is pegged at 10% for you, and in the 3 northern regions, 5%. I'm sure you want further clarity on this. All you have to do, go to your nearest GRA office, and we all know Ghana Revenue Authority, integrity, fairness, and service. Now, the GRA is offering you some tax tips as well in terms of tax exemptions for young entrepreneurs in selected businesses. And the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected business is exempt from tax, as has been mentioned. So just take stock of that and pass by any GRA office and seek the relevant details. On that note,
we bring this edition of the AM show to an end. It's been a real pleasure coming your way throughout the week, and we love that you always wake up to the program that is worth waking up for. From Benjamin and myself, we wish you the very best of the weekend. Please don't drink and drive. Stay alive, and God willing, on Monday we all meet again.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to some watching right after this.
Definitely.
Have a good day.
Don't forget, News Desk is up next later in the day at 12. We bring you
JoyNews
today. So do stay with us. JoyNews, independent, fearless, and credible.